At Turner Field in Atlanta, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball tonight. The Mets play the Atlanta Braves. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. Looking for a car with better tech and safety? Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. By Time Warner Cable. Enjoy all the things you love better with Time Warner Cable. Call 1-855-WANT-TWC today. By Lexus. Proceed directly to luxury with the captivating 2016 Lexus ES and ES Hybrid. By Raymore and Flanagan Furniture. Furnishing your style. By Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And by ChevyOffers.com. Well, the Mets have had awful trouble winning at Turner Field in the past, but in its 20th and final season, the Mets got themselves a big win last night, and all is smiles around Metland these days as the Mets hitters are hitting in the clutch. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Atlanta. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series, their last ever series at Turner Field. Mets won their 6th in a row last night, and they did it with the clutch hitting of Kelly Johnson, the 3-time former Brave who has come back to Atlanta and put a punishment on his hometown team again. The RBI double in the top of the 8th inning, played the go-ahead run, put the Mets in front 5-4. They would win the game 6-4. Kelly started the year as a Brave. He is finishing it as a Met, and the results could not be more stark. And I'm wondering, Keith, when you have a veteran player like a Kelly Johnson, how much does coming to a team that's in contention give you a boost?
Well, I think for any team in contention, for any player, no matter if you're coming from a contending team or a losing team, as Kelly did, it's a big shot in the arm. He's a guy, a veteran. It's a very calming influence in that clubhouse. He's looked up to. He's played outfield, third base, second base, first base, very versatile, but he's been very, very clutch. He's got 6 pinch hits, 4 of them home runs, 11 RBIs as a pinch hitter, and he's driven in nothing but clutch runs in this run down for the wild card.
And Kelly Johnson's prowess off the bench, one of the things that has gone right for the Mets down the stretch of this season. One thing that's gone right all season has been the performance of 43-year-old Bartolo Colon. He showed it again Monday in Cincinnati when the Mets needed him the most.
Well, Bart's been moved up. They had the off day, the blister to Lugo, 13 victories. This is his, third season with the Mets. He looks like he's going to lead the team in wins again with Syndergaard. This is a big game for the Mets here to keep it rolling, get 7 in a row. Every game is important. Bartolo has had very good success against the Braves over his career, 9-3 lifetime.
One of the players the Mets traded last year when they acquired Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe was John Gant, whose only big league win came earlier this year against the Mets.
He went 6 2/3 innings, only gave up 1 run in that victory, his lone victory. He's been up and down all year. He throws the Vulcan changeup, they say. I can't wait to see it. They say he's been getting it up at late. He's had an up and down year. Mets are red hot, hoping to get him early.
Let's go for their 7th straight tonight, looking to get to 10 games over 500 for the first time this year. The Mets and the Braves at Turner Field in Atlanta. All the action coming your way on Pix 11. An expanding network of over 1.5 million hotspots. Get to Citi Field for Free Shirt Friday, September 16th. The Mets take on the Twins at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a Let's Go Mets t-shirt courtesy of Honda. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. The game brought to you by Hyundai.
Sorry, Gary, I jumped the gun there. My monitor's down. I'll look at yours now. The Comeback Kids. First time they've won trailing by 4 runs since '97. That's a long time ago. I was a lot younger. So were you. Kelly Johnson, we mentioned pinch hits, RBIs, tremendous. Bartolo Colon mentioned 9-3 lifetime, but 3-1 here at Turner Field as a Met.
The Mets tonight play their penultimate game at Turner Field before putting it in their rearview mirror forever. I'm sure many will mourn. Mets and Braves, Turner Field. First pitch coming right up. It's Chipper. Gets a start at second base tonight. Wilmer Flores playing first base against the right-hander. James Loney goes to the bench as the Mets go for their 7th straight win tonight, facing the former Met farmhand John Gant. Only 14 home games remaining at Turner Field. They will not knock this place down. They'll keep it around and use it as a venue for Georgia State football. Georgia State University just down the block here in downtown Atlanta. And the Braves will move to a new suburban ballpark in the northwest suburbs next year. SunTrust Park should be ready for occupancy by the Braves next spring. And we'll bring to a close just 20 years of baseball here at Turner Field. I cannot remember a ballpark being decommissioned after this short a period of time.
Neither can I. And here's the rendition, I guess, of the new stadium that'll be opening next year. It's very exciting out in the suburbs.
Kind of going away from the trend toward downtown ballparks that's been more prevalent around the major leagues over the last couple of decades. Turner Field, originally built for the Olympics in 1996, then retrofitted for baseball. It's never had a great deal of charm, and it certainly hasn't for the Mets, who are 66 and 105 all time. However, the Mets have won 10 of their last 12 in this ballpark, so they're finishing strong in what at one time was their house of horrors. Full dugout, 37 players, standing room only.
There's John Gant right there. The former Met came over in that trade for Juan Uribe and Kelly Johnson. That was July 24th last year. Savannah, Georgia kid. Braves always love to get their home state guys. He's had an up and down year. Not a great season for him. 6'3", 200-pounder. And we'll take a look at the defense, the Brave defense. That's brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealers. Inciarte, one of the great pickups for this ball club, a very fine player in center field. On the infield, Freddie Freeman is their perennial all-star. Dansby Swanson is their up-and-coming star. He really impressed me last night with the bat and glove. and A.J. Przinsky, the veteran catcher behind the plate.
Dansby Swanson had himself a good and bad night last night. 3 for 3 at the plate, made a nice play in the field, but also made the key error in the 8th inning and opened the door for the Mets' 4-run winning rally.
And it was a rookie error, Gare, with Jose Reyes up. No chance to double up Jose, and just got a little excited, tried to turn the 2 and didn't make the play at all. Opened the floodgates for the Metropolitans.
Mets come into the night a half game behind the Giants, who rallied to win in 12 innings last night against Arizona. That game ended about 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And the Mets a half game in front of the Cardinals, who beat the Brewers last night 4-3. Giants will be in Arizona. That game starts at 8:40 Eastern time. They'll have Johnny Cueto on the mound tonight. The Cardinals are home against the Brewers with Adam Wainwright pitching against Chase Anderson.
And we talked about the advantage of the schedule. There's Terry Collins. What a job he's done with his ball club yet again. I know some of you folks were screaming and hollering for his hide back in the midseason, but he kept this ball club together when all the injuries to the regulars, they treaded water, they came back, they've been hot, they're making a mad dash.
Jose Reyes to lead things off. Reyes 0 for 5 last night. And John Gant in that strange delivery throws his first fastball outside, and we're underway. John Gant delivers the baseball as though he's had 17 cans of Red Bull before the game.
Oh, that's very bizarre. So you can tell right now he's not an overpowering guy. Little sinker, but the Vulcan change, that is very strange.
And he throws his first strike. 2-1 to Reyes. Cabrera and Cespedes to follow. Gant 23 years old, born in Savannah, Georgia, grew up in the Tampa area. Mets drafted him out of high school in the 21st round of the 2011 draft, and he had made his way up to Double-A, but had not particularly distinguished himself in the Mets farm system, where the Mets put him in the deal last summer for Uribe and Johnson. 3-1 coming, and that misses ball 4, so Gant issues a leadoff walk, and Reyes is aboard to start the night.
Well, Jose has been a big part of this push. This late push by the Mets, along with this man. It's been a team effort, Gary. Everybody has contributed. Even when Terry pushes buttons off the bench, the guys come through, much like we talked in the open about Kelly Johnson. There's been Alejandro Diaz, who's just been playing terrific in the second half.
Asdrubal Cabrera keeping himself in the lineup. There were half a dozen times last night when it looked like he tweaked that left knee a little bit more, sliding and swinging and making plays in the field. But he's right back out there tonight. 1 for 4 last night. Now it's an 8-game hitting streak going.
Jose in 41 games has scored 31 runs and stolen 8 bases, only caught twice. So he's a threat out there. He's given the Mets some speed at the top, which they have lacked.
Gant has given up only 1 stolen base in his big league outings this year. And Cabrera smacks one out to left. Matt Kemp retreats and reaches up to make the catch for the first out of the night. Kemp played that awfully casually, and it almost got over his head.
He kind of loped after that ball, didn't he? But he had it all the way. And the general manager of the Braves, when Kemp came over recently, was a little bit critical of his conditioning. He's a little overweight, but he's a guy that has never been able to stay on the field, and a multi-talented player.
Now you went at Cespedes, speaking of multi-talented players. 2 for 4 last night, drove in a run. 4th in the National League in slugging percentage as the night begins. Mets had a big first inning opportunity last night against Julio Teheran. They went by the boards. They didn't score against Teheran until the 6th, when Granderson's home run started the comeback. And Gant misses below the knees, ball 1. Cespedes 28 home runs, tied for 8th in the National League, 72 runs driven in. And since his return from the disabled list, the Mets have been hitting on all cylinders. He and Cabrera and Reyes all came back right around the same time, and that really has fueled the fire for this team.
Big lead.
And the fastball on the corner from Gant, 1-1.
Which is like what I like to see from Jose. Even if he doesn't have the intent to steal, Gare, take that big lead and let that pitcher stew over it.
Well, it's always been the case with Jose, going back to the earliest part of his career, that you can usually tell when he was in running mode. And he starts and stops. Cespedes puts one to third. Nice backhand play. Garcia, and a good turn by Peterson, but they can't turn the double play. And I think did they call Reyes safe at second?
They called Reyes safe at second. There's no longer that daylight play. And there you have it. The bad throw. That's got to be an E5.
They're going to call a throwing error on Garcia for pulling Peterson off the bag. Peterson did a great job pulling this ball out of the dirt, but they say he was not on the bag with the ball, and we'll wait to see whether the Braves challenge that. I'm not so sure that he wasn't on the bag with the ball. Let's see.
It's more of the throw in the dirt that caused the error.
I think he was on, Keith.
Yeah,
I
he
think
got
he
back.
hit the bag.
He got back.
Second base umpire Dan Bellino made the call that Peterson was off the bag, but I'd be shocked if the Braves don't challenge this. And again, they're giving them way too much time to make up their minds. The rule is supposed to be that you have, 10 or 15 seconds. You're not supposed to take all day to have your replay guys look at it. And the umpires are giving the managers way too much leeway on this.
Who is the crew chief here? It is Tom Hallion.
It's Tom Hallion, the first base umpire.
Here we go.
And they are not pushing this along at all. They have to decide one way or the other. Are they challenging or they're not challenging? This is a joke. There's no way that they should have this long to decide.
Agreed. They're not going to challenge. Wow.
Well, their replay guys must have felt as though it wasn't definitive enough to use their challenge in the first inning, so they'll charge an error on Garcia on the throw for pulling Peterson off the bag, and the Mets get a big first inning break, and now they have 2 men aboard for the suddenly red hot Curtis Granderson. Granderson has homered in each of his last 4 games, first time in his career he's done that. Reyes at second, Cespedes at first with 1 out. So Gant in a first inning pickle, and Granderson takes a strike. Who's Hot brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance, and the Mets certainly are hot. 15 wins in their last 19 games, taking them from 5.5 games out of the second wild card to sitting in the second wild card spot. Granderson not only hit a home run last night, it kind of got lost in the shuffle that Granderson got another hit with a runner in scoring position, which he's done a couple of times recently, something that has plagued him all year. He had the 8th inning single that tied up the game before Kelly Johnson's go-ahead hit. Trying to become only the second Met in regular season Mets history to hit home runs in 5 straight games. Richard Hidalgo is the only one to do that back in 2004.
You remember that, don't you? What they required him from Houston in a trade, and he just went on that tear. But that's about all you got from Richard Hidalgo.
Of course, Ahmed has hit home runs in 6 straight games, but that wasn't in the regular season. That was Superman Daniel Murphy last October.
Of course, how can I forget?
1-2 now to Granderson with Jay Bruce on deck, and the curveball hit toward the middle of the diamond. Peterson has it scoot right on by him, and Reyes will score the first run of the game. Cespedes goes to third. He arrives there safely. Second error of the inning for the Braves infield, and the Mets, without the benefit of a base hit, have a 1-0 lead.
Wow. 95 and 96th error of the season for this Brave team. This is a tailor-made double play. And he just boxes it and sent the dozen somewhere. He tried to get in front. That ball just ate him up. And look at Cespedes. Sorry, folks, but I'll say it again. He is our best and smartest base runner.
So now with 1 out, a run is in. First and third, and Jay Bruce the batter. Bruce 0 for 3 last night, 1 for 11 on this road trip. Did they change that first error to Peterson as well? I thought they just said that.
It can't be to Peterson. The ball here's Cespedes
for
right
being off the bag.
Sees it, and he knows right there and reads and goes. Remember, he's got the bad quad. He is going to pick his spots. He's got that quad wrapped.
Bruce grounds one down to first. Freeman will go to second with it. Gets the force there. Swanson back to first. Not in time. And Cespedes scores to make it 2-0. Bruce beats the wrap at first on the potential 3-6-1 double play. And the Mets get their second run still without a hit.
Gosh.
So it goes the 3-6 fielder's choice. Gant covering at first. And Bruce just quick enough to beat the wrap.
Well, tailor-made here to end the inning, and it doesn't get done. Good hustle by Bruce.
Granderson just disruptive enough at second base. And Bruce picks up his 91st RBI, and the Mets have an early 2-0 lead without the benefit of a hit. Now Wilmer Flores punches one foul. Wilmer 0 for 3 last night, getting the start at first base against a right-hander tonight. Here's that play at first.
He just beat it.
So a walk and 2 errors and a double play not turned, and all of a sudden the Mets have 2 runs in the bank for Bartolo Colon. Now Wilmer gets jammed and fouls it off, and it's 0-2. Terry Collins has liked the way Wilmer's been swinging the bat, and so he puts Loney on the bench tonight. Gets Kelly Johnson on the lineup after his big hit and keeps Wilmer in there playing first base. Terry's got a lot of options these days. 0-2 from Gant to Flores, and he strikes him out with a fastball to end the inning. But the Mets get a couple of unearned runs to get off to a fast start in Atlanta. Bartolo Colon takes the mound with a 2-0 lead. Waiting at your Honda dealer. Only one change in the Braves lineup tonight. A.J. Pierzynski gets the start behind the plate after Tyler Flowers caught last night. Braves have been hitting on all cylinders offensively lately, and Bartolo Colon, who's always enjoyed pitching at Turner Field, will try and hold them down tonight.
Well, he's enjoyed pitching against the Braves over his career. 9-3, as I mentioned in the open, but look at the year he's having. When you look back, Bartolo has just pitched wonderfully for the Mets. He's going to win 15 games again, for crying out loud. 43 years old. Remarkable.
Ender Inciarte leads off. He had an 18-game hitting streak come to an end last night when he went 0 for 5. Had to have a couple of nice plays made against him to do that. One by James Loney and one by Eric Campbell to rob him of potential base hits. Inciarte, though, since the All-Star break, hitting .357, and he slaps one foul. 0-2. Colon on Monday saved the Mets bacon. He was the lone rested player for the Mets when they came off the Sunday night game against the Nats and Played the Monday afternoon game in Cincinnati, and he was exactly what he needed to be. That's lined to left center, and Inciarte has a leadoff hit. Granderson comes over to cut it off. Inciarte's going to try for two. Granderson's throw is not in time, and Inciarte has a leadoff double. And the Braves start to fight back.
And the Braves are a hustling team. This is night and day. They're another ball club now, back to back. We've seen Cincinnati and now the Bravos playing the season out. Cincinnati did not hustle. This team fights and plays hard. And Curtis taking advantage of the arm, but just good hustle all the way. Ball hitting the gap.
And Inciarte has his 21st double of the year, so after having an 18-game hitting streak stopped last night, he starts a new one. And now Adonis Garcia, who had 2 hits, including a double last night. And he bluffs a bunt with Reyes playing deep. Ball 1. Well, we mentioned the Braves offense for a long time this year. This was the worst offensive team in the National League by far, but all of a sudden over the last 20 games their offense has completely turned a corner. Inciarte's been a spark. Freeman's had a great year. They added Matt Kemp, who's given them a big presence in the middle of the lineup, and they've become a much more formidable offensive team. Look at that. They were averaging 3.5 runs per game, but now in the last 20 games they've upped that by more than 2 runs per game. And you know, that's a tribute to a team that's out of the race and all of a sudden betters itself over the course of a season.
Well, you know, Kemp was a big help for them, even though he's only hitting around 260 for them. He gave him a right-handed bat to protect Freeman.
This guy Garcia has been hot too, hitting 362 over his last 10 games. And Bart misses outside, 2-1. We mentioned Colon's prowess in this ballpark. He's pitched 6 games at Turner Field. There's Freddie Freeman on deck. In the 6 games he's pitched here, Bart is 5-1 with a 1.51 ERA. And somebody made the point today, and it's a great one, that Bart is the only active player who was active when Turner Field opened for baseball in 1997.
Well, he's had 2 starts against the Braves this year. He's 1-1. The start here, Gary, was a loss. He went 7 innings and only gave up 1 run.
And that's outside, ball 4. So Colon, who rarely walks anybody, walks Garcia ahead of Freeman.
And we'll take a look at your Metsy defense, brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Jay Bruce in right, trying to get him untracked. On the infield, Kelly Johnson gets the start. Came off the bench last night to get the big hit, but he's been raking. And he's staying in the lineup. Flores, of course, moves to first. He's been swinging a hot bat. Darno has had a real tough time getting untracked in the course of the season.
Well, an early crisis for Colon after being handed a 2-0 lead, a double and a walk, and now he faces Freddie Freeman, who has owned him over their prior meetings. Freeman 13 for 27, a 481 average against Colon. And Bart works him inside for ball 1. So Colon trying to find his rhythm in this early going. He had the same problem in his last start. Had to work out of a bases loaded jam in the first inning. Inciarte at second, Garcia at first, and Freeman goes after a low and in fastball.
I think he put a little cut on that, Gary. Had a little run to it. Late run. Let's see. Yep, did.
It's the master of the finger pressure, isn't he?
Yes, it's a big out right here. Red hot hitter, one of the best hitters in the game, and also a guy that's 1 home run away from 30.
Freeman's got a 15-game hitting streak working. And again, Bart keeping the ball inside on him, 2-1. You mentioned finger pressure for Colon, and that became an issue in his last start. Remember, he was looking down at his finger and rubbing it a whole bunch the last few innings that he was in the game. Turned out it was nothing, and he was good to go. It's 4 straight pitches he's worked inside against Freeman.
He sure has.
Now he's fallen behind 3-1.
He needs a ground ball here. I got to believe he's going to throw him a little fish, little dead fish. Luca Brazzi on the outside corner, sinking.
I believe that's a new addition to your repertoire, Keith. Very impressive. Freeman pulls one, and a great stop by Flores. He gets the out at second. That's all they'll get. But Flores robbed Freeman of a base hit. That's the third terrific play in this series by three different Mets first basemen. Loney, Campbell, and now Flores.
Well, let me tell you, it has been the defense of this team. We tend to overlook the defense. This is a terrific play by Wilmer. Remember now, he's just the first year he's played first base. That's a heck of a play. And the Mets have been making the plays. Last night it was Campbell who got a late insert into the game, who's not a first baseman, made two fine plays. The Mets have been playing defense as well as offense.
So now first and third and one out. Maybe that gives Colon a chance to breathe as he takes on Matt Kemp, who homered last night, his 29th of the year. Inciarte now at third, Freeman at first with one out. And Kemp takes a strike. Colon's third start against the Braves this year. In his first two, he worked a total of 15 innings and allowed one run. Actually lost his second start down here in June, giving up one run in 7 innings after throwing 8 scoreless against the Braves in New York in early May. Going tonight for win number 232.
He's struggling right now, Gare. I mean, he is one play, but Wilmer not making that play, that's a double down the line, and he's in big trouble. What a play by Wilmer.
Colon, who never panics, gets the high strike to Kemp, who didn't like that call by Adam Hamari, the young home plate umpire. And now Colon's ahead 1-2.
It's like any good pitcher or top-notch pitcher, quality pitcher, you've got to get them early. Get them. Do not let them get into their rhythm.
Colon would love to get the ground ball from Kemp, get a chance to get through the inning. Instead, he gets a liner to center. Granderson comes in to get it. Inciarte tags. He'll score without a throw. Sacrifice fly for Kemp gets the Braves on the board. It's now 2-1 New York. So Kemp drives in his 96th run of the year. Started the night 4th in the National League in RBIs. Now 2 out and a runner at first for Nick Markakis. So 3 balls have been put in play against Colon, and they've all been struck well. Inciarte's double, Freeman's hot shot that Flores handled. Now that line drive sacrifice fly by Kemp. Markakis 1 for 3, drove in a pair of runs last night. And he takes one on the corner. The Cardinals and the Brewers are underway in St. Louis. No score in the second. Adam Wainwright pitching for the Cardinals tonight. St. Louis a half game behind the Mets for the second wild card spot. Giants in Arizona. They're about an hour or so from starting.
Well, everybody in the wild card race, the Mets had to step over the Marlins, the Pirates. They've done that. In the process of this run, I think they've woken up the Cardinals and the Giants, who are starting to play a little better.
Well, I mean, this run began with a couple of wins in San Francisco after the Mets lost the first 2 there, and then the Mets in unlikely fashion taking 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. That's what got this whole thing rolling. And now the Mets have passed the Cardinals, at least for the moment, and they're bearing down on the Giants. Giants really had to work hard to win last night. They wound up with a relief pitcher, Corey Guerin, getting the save after playing left field for part of the 12th inning for Bruce Bochy. 0-2 to Markakis, and he pops it up into shallow center. Granderson coming on, and Curtis puts it away. That retires the side. Braves cash a run after Inciarte's leadoff double. Mets lead 2-1. Was brought to you by Model Sporting Goods, your fan gear headquarters. Come on, Met fans, you got to go to Moe's. Second inning, 2-1 New York. Lower third of the order coming up for the Mets against John Gant. Bartolo Colon with an uneven first inning.
But he got through it. A little help from his friends.
Kelly Johnson getting the start at second base tonight. Takes ball one. Kelly had the big hit for the Mets last night coming off the bench. It was the 7th time in the last 2 years that Kelly has had either a tying or go-ahead RBI in the 8th inning or later. Only one other Met player in the last 2 years has as many, and that's Wilmer Flores. And think about it, Kelly has only been here for parts of last year and this year, and yet he's had all those clutch hits late in games. 2 balls and a strike, and now facing a guy he was traded for last year. It was Gant and another Met farmhand pitcher, Rob Whalen, who's already pitched for the Braves this year, who went for Johnson and Juan Uribe last year at the trading deadline. Do you find as a hitter that what Gant does before he goes into his windup is distracting, or does it not matter all those histrionics he does before he starts?
I've been just observing this at bat, and the thought was running through my mind, I need to get in that box to get a look at this.
That's pulled into right field, and Kelly Johnson has the Mets' first hit of the night.
Gary, I think you have to eliminate when he takes that first leg kick up and then brings it down. That's right there. Okay, now he gets there. Now this is when he starts his motion, and that eliminates the front half of the delivery.
I always wonder, how does a guy start doing
I know.
that?
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, it's not just the step, but he seems to be shimmying as he gets himself prepared.
I don't think I've ever seen a windup like this.
Here's Travis d'Arnaud, and he takes a knee-high strike.
You got me. I mean, why in the world would you do this? It's a double leg kick.
So he's kind of shimmying there, and then he goes into his motion.
Very bizarre.
Travis was 0 for 4 last night, and he takes that one below the knees, 1-1. d'Arnaud now hitless in his last 9 at bats. Rene Rivera will probably catch the day game tomorrow with Seth Lugo starting. Lugo should be good to go. He had a little blister on his middle finger, but it appears to have resolved itself. He'll have a couple of extra days with the off day and having been pushed back. The plan now is to pitch Rafael Montero on Monday. Mets had been giving some thought to perhaps moving Noah Syndergaard up, but they'll give Syndergaard the extra day. Mets will be in Washington starting on Monday. The progress of Jacob deGrom and Steven Matz is interesting to watch. Matz threw a brief bullpen session in Florida today, and all seemed to go well. deGrom threw a sort of an impromptu few pitches off the mound today. It wasn't really a bullpen session. He wasn't even in spikes. And we'll see how that goes. I guess suffice to say, it doesn't look like either one is going to plug into the rotation this next time around. But the hope is that either or both might be ready to pitch sometime before the end of the season. I mean, you've got 3 weeks to go, so time is short.
21 games, 4 starts, Garrett. 3 to 4 starts.
1-2 to Travis, and he struck him out with a fastball. Gant has his second strikeout of the night, and that's the first out of the inning.
Well, Travis has taken that big long swing.
So d'Arnaud now 0 for his last 10, and Colon will step in and see if he can move the runner over. Bartolo has 5 hits, including a home run, 3 sacrifices this year. Johnson at first and 1 out. Of course, until and unless either DeGrom or Matz is able to re-enter the rotation, the Mets will certainly hope that guys like Gesellman and Lugo and Montero can continue to carry the weight. But Montero faltered in his last start. Gesellman faltered a little bit last night, and you just don't know what you're going to get from that trio.
Well, you're going to get a start now from Montero in Washington.
Now, ground ball to short. That should be a double play. Peterson with the turn, and they double up Colon. So Mets take off the bunt with Colon, and it cost them 2 outs. Gant gets the ground ball he needed from Colon.
Empty. We're scoreless. Bottom half of the first inning. And Chipper lines one to left field. That'll drop in. Base hit. Chipper Jones' name goes in the record book for coming up with the first hit at Turner Field.
Boy, that's a shock, huh? Great to hear the dulcet tones of the late Pete Van Wieren making that call. It is Chipper Jones bobblehead night tonight at Turner Field.
That, of course, was those great Brave teams that had that great run of division and National League flags. Only one world championship.
They did a great job denying the Mets.
Oh, they sure did.
97, 98, in the league championship series in 99. There's Chipper. Relaxing in a ball game. Jace Peterson leads off in the home second and takes a strike from Colon. Peterson 2 for 4 last night. Dansby Swanson on deck, and then A.J. Pierzynski for the Braves in the second.
Well,
he'll be headed to the Hall of Fame.
I think so. I think you're right, Garrett. Pretty good bet.
Well, when you think about the greatest switch hitters in history, Mickey Mantle, Eddie Murray,
yes,
Chipper Jones.
Everybody forgets Eddie Murray, and Eddie Murray just had a terrific career. Played in New York.
Well, Eddie Murray is one of the select few who has both 500 home runs and 3,000 hits.
Yes.
Johnson gets in front of the grounder and throws out Peterson one away.
Well, what I really think the home runs are most impressive to me. Chipper was such a great clutch hitter. This is a big ballpark. He hit home runs in Turner Field here. This wasn't like Fulton County where it was the launching pad. You know, you've got 390 in right center field. You've got 380 in left center field. It's a big park. That's left center, and that's 380 is a long way. 390 in right center, and the lines are 335 down the left, 330 down the right field line. Center field's moderate at 400 feet, but big gaps in this ballpark.
Well, they built it for the Braves pitching staff in the 90s. Swanson hits a slow ground ball. Johnson circles in to get it, and that's the second out. So Colon looking much sharper here in the second inning. Gets a couple of ground ball outs. Well, the thing about Chipper, I mean, he was a great clutch hitter, and Met fans certainly know that. Mets bore the brunt of a lot of his clutch hitting, but also there was a point in his career where he was really not a very good right-hand hitter. And he was able to resurrect his right side of the plate mid-career under the tutelage of Don Baylor, and learned how to be an effective right-hand batter in addition to, you know, all the slugging he did from the left side.
And you said it, Gary, a lot of hard work becoming a better right-hand hitter.
Ooh. Pierzynski's hit by the pitch, gives a little glare out to Colon, because that's what Pierzynski does. And he's aboard with 2 out.
Cutter off the elbow.
More of a smirk than a glare.
Yeah.
They've faced each other many times. 68 career at bats for Pierzynski against Colon.
Well, he's got that pad on.
He's thinking, you know, you're the oldest pitcher in the game. I'm the oldest catcher in the game. Isn't there a pact between us that you're not supposed to hit me?
Well, Pierzynski also knows that the last thing Bartolo wanted to do with Pierzynski hitting 217 was to turn the lineup over and get the pitcher out here and get the top of the order next inning.
So now John Gant looking for his first big league hit. He's 0 for 6. Colon, who had all sorts of trouble throwing strikes in the first inning, appears to be dialed in here in the second. And that's on the corner, and quickly it's 0-2. Gant just gets a piece of it to stay in there. If Colon can get a win here tonight, he will be the winningest Mets pitcher in the history of Turner Field. He is now tied with a host of others with 3 wins as a Met in this ballpark. No Met pitcher has ever won 4 games career at Turner Field. I'll give you an idea just how many the Mets have struggled here. And Gant goes down swinging. First strikeout of the night for Colon. That'll send us off to the 3rd in downtown Atlanta with the Mets up 2-1. We were talking about the Giants' 12-inning victory last night in Arizona. For more, let's go inside baseball with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Yeah, Gary, really a bizarre win for the Giants. The story afterwards being how Bruce Bochy deployed his bullpen. You mentioned it. Corey Guerin getting the save, but in the 12th inning, starting as a pitcher, moving to left field, and then moving back to pitcher to complete the save. First Giants pitcher since Keith Comstock in 1987 to switch positions mid-inning and then switch back. And the other aspect of the game was the fact that prior to the night, Santiago Casilla was removed as the closer, according to Bruce Bochy, but in the 10th inning, he went out there to get the save again, and again blew the save, his 8th blown save of the season, which is the most for a Giants closer since Armando Benitez in 2006. After the game, Bruce Bochy said, "I've touched the hot stove one too many times, so I think he's going to avoid Casilla, at least in those spots moving forward."
Well, what made that even more fascinating, Steve and Keith, is that the guy who tied the game against Casilla when he blew the save was Jake Lamb. Now, Jake Lamb had had 2 at-bats earlier this season against Casilla, had hit home runs both times. So Bochy puts him in again, and Lamb hits a 3rd home run in 3 at-bats against Casilla to tie the game.
You got to think 3rd time's the charm, right?
Well, you would
and
think
Gary, guys, 4th time is really a charm. He's 4 for 8 now against Casilla in his career with 4 home runs overall. So
you know when Howard Johnson did that to Todd Worrell, Whitey Herzog stopped letting Worrell face Ojo.
Right.
At some point, you have to cut your losses, don't you?
Yes. And as far as putting a pitcher out into a position, Steve, Gary, Whitey was the first manager when I played in St. Louis that did it. I forget the circumstance. And then, of course, there's that famous game in Cincinnati where Davey Johnson inserted Roger McDowell and Jesse Orozco.
Yeah, that was not by design. That was because you guys didn't have enough players.
We were getting a big fight. That was the Eric Davis fight.
Right, well, Darrell had been ejected earlier in the game, and then Ray Knight got ejected, and that's how Gary Carter wound up playing 3rd base.
And I remember Davey laughing after the game. Jesse made the final putout of line drive to right field. And I was holding my breath at first base. Trust me.
Reyes lays off the breaking ball in the dirt. Well, it's interesting. I was talking to Terry Collins about that today. And Terry said, because Joe Madden did this earlier this year, switch pitchers back and forth between the mound and the outfield. He said, it's not a bad idea to have a couple of pitchers who go and do some extra shagging so that in the eventuality you need to do that, you can send them out there and feel comfortable doing it. And Reyes takes strike 3 call. Didn't like the call from Adam Hamari and grumbles about it. Gant has his 3rd strikeout.
Sinker. Could have a gripe.
Might have been low.
That's got the corner. That's a tough one to take right there. That's a pitcher's pitch because the umpire called it a strike. Jose didn't get the call.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Cabrera, who flied to deep left field his first time up. Gant's best game in the major leagues by far came when he beat the Mets back in June. It was at Citi Field on a Saturday. He went 6 2/3, allowed 1 run and 2 hits in a 5-1 win. He made a couple more starts, and then he strained an oblique muscle and was on the disabled list from late June until late August. And this is only his 2nd big league start back since that injury. Faced the Phillies last Saturday in Philadelphia, gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. So he hasn't pitched much over the last few months. Cabrera lines one to right field. Markakis will have to play it on the hop. And Cabrera just keeps on raking. He's got a 9-game hitting streak, and the Mets have a 1-out base run.
This ball was off the plate. It's inside. Wouldn't drop the barrel on it.
Keith, it's my impression as a layman that since Cabrera has come back from this knee injury most recently, that there's much more ease in his swing, that he's cut down his swing a little bit. Is that fair to say?
I think you concentrate more. I remember Tim McCarver when he was doing games on Sports Channel, back in the old days of Sports Channel, when he came in with New York, and he was talking one time about when you have an injury, you tend to concentrate more. If it hurts to swing, no matter where you are injured in your body.
Cespedes is a rope to left field, and in comes Kemp to make the diving catch. Kemp looked a little awkward doing it, but that ball stayed up just long enough for him to snag that bullet off the bat of Cespedes for the second out.
This was a sinking line drive, and he got there. Nice play. No, but getting back to being injured, Garrett, and it hurts a tad to swing, or you got stiffness. You really focus on looking for that one pitch and making it count. One swing, get the heck out of the box. Ideal thing is you got 4 at bats, 4 swings, you're gone. Hopefully 4 hits.
Even better.
That would help.
Except then you have to run the bases.
Well, that's okay, as long as it's not a leg injury.
Well, in Asdrubal's case, it is.
Yes, I hear you.
Granderson hit the ground ball that went through Peterson for an error that scored the first Met run in their 2-run first.
There's that high strike, Gary, getting called to get a lot more this year.
Three infielders on the right side against Granderson. And Curtis tries to lay off the sinker, but he went around. And it's 1-2.
You see the shift on Curtis. Not so dramatic as we've seen with other ball clubs, but nonetheless, this is a shift. Didn't affect Ted Williams.
That's pulled into the shift, and right there is Peterson to snag it. And that retires the side. Shift worked perfectly. Hard hit ball by Granderson, just as Cespedes did. MLB.TV Premium. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. MLB.TV Premium includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Second time through the batting order for Bartolo Colon as we go to the home third. And Ender Inciarte slugs one out to right center. Granderson cutting across, and he gets there for the first out. One pitch, one retired.
Pitchers always like that. It's always nice. Pitcher says nice going, nice hustle. It's nice.
Kept saying it had a lot of top spin on it.
And that's why it wasn't elegant. But it still counts.
He's telling him, just throw some fly balls.
Here's Adonis Garcia. And he bluffs the bunt again as he did in his first at bat, with Reyes playing very deep, as Jose generally does. Garcia wound up drawing a walk his first time up. And the high changeup by Colon gets him swinging at it. Here's your high-speed pitch. Comes from your Tri-State Ford dealers. His last start in Cincinnati, we saw a bunch of 92s and 93s from Bartolo when he needed it. But that's what he does. He paces himself, and when he needs to reach deeper into the tank, it's there.
He's great at changing speeds. Remember, this is a man that throws, what, 85% fastballs, Gary? It's hard to believe.
1-2 to Garcia. He spins a slider outside, 2-2. Freddie Freeman waiting on deck. Bartolo, over his last 7 starts, is 4-1 with a 2.25 ERA, at a point the Mets needed it the most. With all of the injuries and unavailability and question marks among the young pitchers in the Mets rotation, Colon has been there start after start after start.
And we told you, I ran into Bart earlier this year in the gym. He does a rigorous lower body workout, folks. I was only there for a half hour of it with his personal trainer, and he does a lot of leg work.
Slowly hit. Colon's going to have to cover the flip by Flores, and Bartolo handles it with aplomb. 2 out.
Well, Wilmer showing some aggressiveness out there, and that's a little bit of inexperience. That maybe let the second baseman get this. Clearly the second baseman's ball, but you know what? I'd rather see Wilmer be aggressive like that. It's up to Bart to get there. That's his job to get there.
And the behind the back flip to boot.
Little Guy Rogers. Shall we enlighten our fans? Guy Rogers from the Warriors back in the old days had the behind the back pass.
See, I usually try and go to Bob Cousy because I think he was the guy who was the progenitor of the behind the back pass.
Guy Rogers was a little flashy.
Well, Guy Rogers is the guy you grew up with on the West Coast.
Right. There was that Warrior team had Nate Thurman at center, Wilt Chamberlain.
Who recently passed away.
Yes,
Nate Thurman.
Oh, he was at forward because Wilt Chamberlain was at center. And Tom Meschery was the other forward, and Al Attles was the guard. He was the K.C. Jones of that Warrior team. He was the defender.
Freddie Freeman robbed of a hit by Flores his first time up. And Kelly Johnson moves well out into shallow right field, into triangle position against Freeman this time. Colon tried to keep everything in on Freeman in that first at bat. 2 out, nobody on, and Freddie bangs one into the ground off his leg. 2-1.
Mets got the right idea attacking Freddie. That little cutter down and in. It's a little bit has a tough time with that pitch, but boy, do not leave it over the plate, or you will be rubbing up a new one.
29 home runs for Freeman, already a career high. To go with 38 doubles. And now it's 3-1. Matt Kemp standing on deck. And Freeman goes after the off-speed pitch, so Bart put a little wrinkle in there, a 3-1 changeup.
He was going for the downs here, 3-1, and he, I won't say it again, he got the changeup, sinking change. I won't use the same description.
Off-speed.
No, the Mario
Dead
Puzo.
fish.
Yeah.
That's drilled to right field, and Bruce is going to have to play it on a hop. So Freddie Freeman has a 2-out hit, and he is now hit in 16 straight games. And he's now gotten on base in 32 straight games.
He's a hitter. And I just cannot get over what a terrible start and how bad he looked, Gary. We mentioned it last night. Terrible first month and a half. And now his numbers are where they should be.
And, you know, he's playing for a team that's going nowhere. He's got a contract through 2021. He could have packed it in, but he worked his way out of it, and he's having an unbelievable last 4 months of the season. Here's Matt Kemp, who drove in the Braves run with a sacrifice fly his first time up.
Very similar. I thought maybe he held his bat over his head like d'Arnaud, but no, not nearly as much.
It's not pointing directly at the pitcher the way d'Arnaud's does. Freeman at first and 2 out, 1-1 to Kemp. Freeman not a big base stealing threat, only 4 this year. And Kemp swings through the fastball. 1-2. One-two coming, and d'Arnaud backhands it. 2-2. A few more sliders and changeups in this inning from Colon, working against the Braves' big hitters. Nick Markakis would be next. Now the 2-2, and it's too high. So Colon runs a full count. He's already walked one and hit a batter tonight. Now Freeman will have the automatic start. Flores looking into the dugout, wants to know where they want him to play. And Wilmer is going to stay put.
It's a hot night. A little cooler today than it was last night.
Freeman gets set to run. 3-2 coming to Kemp. And he lifts one to right field. Should be easy for Bruce. And that retires the side. So Colon works around Freeman's 2-out hit. We've played 3 in Atlanta. Mets 2, Braves 1. Your local tri-state Kia dealers. Final game of this series and the Mets' last game ever at Turner Field tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 on SNY. Then the Mets are in D.C. for 3 games, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon, and then back home for the final homestand of the season, starting with Brian Dozier and his 39 home runs, leading the Twins in next Friday night. Twins, Braves, Phillies, 10-game homestand starting Friday. And then the Mets finish up the season on the road in Miami and Philadelphia. Jay Bruce leads off in the 4th inning against John Gant and takes a fastball for a strike. Bruce drove in a run by beating out a potential double play ball in the 1st. That's at 1st and 3rd and 1 out. It looked like a routine double play started by Freeman, but Bruce beat Gant to first base and beat the throw, and thus the Mets got their 2nd run, and Bruce got his 91st run batted in of the year. The game in St. Louis has gone to the 5th. Cardinals and Brewers no score. What a week this has been for New York baseball, with the Mets going for their 7th straight win today, and the Yankees won their 7th straight this afternoon.
It is amazing what the Yankees have done of late after they strike 3.
4th strikeout for Gant as Bruce is caught looking. Masahiro Tanaka was brilliant today. 10 strikeouts over 7 1/3. Gary Sanchez hit another home run.
They blew up that team and threw in the towel, and they're right back in the hunt.
I mean, between the Mets and the Yankees, you're talking about 2 potentially great stories. The Mets trying to work around all the injuries that have bedeviled them all year and using an entire roster plus to try and fight their way back, and the Yankees doing it with young players after seemingly having thrown in the towel. And yet here they are, both teams with a chance.
Mr. Sanchez hit another home run today. It's incredible.
13 now. Flores struck out his first time up, and the breaking ball down. The Orioles are beating up on the Tigers tonight. They knocked Jordan Zimmerman out in the 2nd inning. So it looks like Baltimore might have that 2nd wild card when the night is over. It's 6-1 in the 3rd as those 2 teams go head to head. Zimmerman just back from the disabled list and probably rushed him a little too quickly. Not looking like the same guy we saw for years in Washington. Kelly Johnson waiting on deck. And Flores lays off, he thought, and he did. First base umpire Tom Hallion said he didn't swing. 2-2.
Well, Gant's starting to get a little rhythm here. They said that his Vulcan changed because he throws it as if Spock would give you the Vulcan recognition sign with his fingers.
Between the middle and ring fingers.
Well, correct.
And the breaking ball strikes out Flores. So back-to-back strikeouts for Gant to start the 4th inning. He's got 5 for the night. Just 1 shy of his career high.
Good sink. I think it was a changeup, Gear. It looked like Wilmer was out in front of that one full.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Kelly Johnson, who has one of the Mets' 2 hits tonight. Single to right field in the 2nd. Kelly takes the curveball inside.
I like seeing these soft tossers. It's nice.
That's smacked into center field, and Kelly Johnson is 2 for 2. So after his game-winning hit last night, Johnson rewarded with a start and has hits his first 2 times up.
This one's up. As far as I'm concerned, keep Kelly Johnson in a Met uniform going forward. He's a perfect guy for your bench. Versatile, can play multiple positions. He's a veteran, sets a great example.
Now Travis d'Arnaud with 2 out and a runner at first.
There it is.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, beam me up, Scotty.
There goes Johnson. The throw by Pierzynski on a hop, and it can't be handled by Peterson, and Kelly Johnson has his 3rd stolen base of the year.
And he can steal bases, Gary. He can pick and choose. Not a good throw out of Pierzynski there.
So now they're going to walk d'Arnaud intentionally after the stolen base and pitch to Colon instead.
Oh, they better beware. He's got 2 doubles and a home run this year.
Bart swung the bat his first time up and grounded into a double play, and Pierzynski just now getting Kent's attention that they're going to intentionally walk d'Arnaud.
Oh.
And now the rookie pitcher has gotten on the same page with his veteran catcher. Meanwhile, in St. Louis, Keon Broxton homered in the top of the 5th against Adam Wainwright, and the Brewers have taken a 1-0 lead on the Cardinals. The Giants are underway in Arizona. No score in the bottom of the 1st. Johnny Cueto on the mound for the Giants tonight. Last night was such a huge win for the Giants. Not just that they won the game, but they won with Bumgarner starting. They just can't afford to lose the games that Bumgarner starts, much the way the Mets can't afford to lose the games that Syndergaard and Colon start.
That's why I'm not high on the Giants with their rotation.
The out-of-town scoreboard malfunctioning here at Turner Field, so the Mets cannot scoreboard watch at the moment.
Oh, but Gary, I know that you have your computer on.
Well, I'm sure they have them in the clubhouse too. They can relay any information. So here's Colon with 2 out and 2 on. Bartolo with, as Keith noted, 2 doubles and a home run, 2 RBIs this year. And he takes a rip. 0-1.
I think about those Cardinals too, Gary, and their inability to win at home as the big cut by Bart. They have not won a home series since a 3-game series in between July 18th and 21st.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Colon makes contact, flies one along the line, and foul ground. Markakis picks it to retire the side. Nice play by the former Gold Glover. Markakis catching the foul fly ball. The Mets strand 2, lead it 2-1.
In the air down the right field line. Sosa looking up. This ball is gone. Michael Tucker hits the first home run at Turner Field. It's 1-0 Atlanta.
Well, that was the first ever home run at Turner Field. It was hit by Michael Tucker, but for Met fans, that is not Michael Tucker's most memorable moment at Turner Field. If you were a Met fan in 1998,
You'll remember the last game before the All-Star break, the Mets and Braves were playing in extra innings. I think it was the bottom of the 11th. Michael Tucker was on third base, tried to score on a sacrifice fly, slid into the plate and slid directly into the thigh of Mike Piazza, never touched home plate, put a hole in Piazza's thigh. Angel Hernandez called him safe. John Franco went ballistic, spiked the ball, wound up getting suspended. Angel had a flight, and the Mets lost that game. That was one of those classic, horrible Turner Field moments that the Mets have suffered. Nick Markakis leads off in the bottom of the 4th inning. And he gets a hold of one deep to right center. Bruce going back near the wall, and it's out of here. Nick Markakis ties the game with his 10th home run of the year. So Markakis assaulting Colon on his first pitch in the bottom of the 4th to get the Braves even 2-2.
Yeah, the fastball wanted it in, and it bled out over the middle and down into the wheelhouse of Markakis.
So we start even. Jace Peterson, and he takes a strike from Colon.
See, that's the one issue when you have that fastball that Colon likes to throw to the left-hand hitters, Gary. And that is the 16th home run he's given up to lefties this year. It's like much like Nolan Ryan. He did not like to throw inside the left-handers because it had that movement. You had to start it at the left-hander's hip to get on the inside corner. If you got it inside the body, that thing would bleed, just come right over into the wheelhouse.
Peterson slaps one, and Reyes with a pretty backhand stop and throws him out.
More leather, Gary.
Beautiful play. Jose Reyes took a double away from Peterson and made it look easy.
The Mets are. Reyes has not only given this club offensive firepower and speed at the top, but he has just played an amazing third base. Terrific play. Still got the reflexes, and to finish this play up, he's got the great arm still.
And Wilmer was able to stay on his feet at first base.
Guys, that play right there is something the coaching staff really wanted to see how Jose Reyes handled a ball going the other way down the line that's kind of tailing away from him. He hadn't seen too many at third base like that prior to this, but right there again, passing with flying colors.
Well, it's all reactive. I mean, the third base is much more a reactive position than shortstop. And Jose has got the reflexes. Still got them. He's always had the good hands and always had the great arm.
Swanson grounds one right at Cabrera, who throws out his opposite number, and there are 2 out. Well, the thing that Reyes has done to compensate for the quickness at third base of the ball again to you is he's just playing deeper than most third basemen.
Yes, he is, and that's fine. And no one seems to have tried to put a bunt down on him.
They've threatened, but they haven't really done it. And Garcia twice in this game has showed bunt, with Reyes playing very deep, but has not gotten one down. So now 2 out and nobody on after the Markakis home run. Here's Pierzynski, who was hit on the elbow by a pitch his first time up.
Fastball, and you can see it kind of just lazily sink out over the middle like a bend in a river.
Up a lazy river without a you-know-what.
Oh, the Mills brothers.
In the air to left, chasing Cespedes back, but he's got plenty of room. And that retires the side. But Markakis, on the first pitch of the bottom of the 4th, hits his 10th home run of the year. And the Braves tie it up 2-2 as we go to the 5th. Let's play the Twins at 7:10. The first 15,000 fans in attendance will receive a Jacob deGrom hair hat courtesy of Geico. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. And it'll look just like that. Chipper Jones exchanging pleasantries with Mets first base coach Tom Goodwin. They're all friends now.
That's a fraternity.
Third time around the batting order for John Gant. Jose Reyes leads off in the fifth in a 2-2 game. Jose has walked and scored a run and taken a called third strike. Gant has looked good, and a couple of errors made behind him in the first inning that cost him 2 unearned runs, and he's worked around hits in every inning since. Reyes punches one foul and it's 0-2. As Drupal Cabrera on deck, and then NYN AT Cespedes for the Mets in the fifth. Reyes fouls back the fastball. 93 from Gant.
Gant seems to have gotten over his first inning jitters here, throwing a little more aggressively inside, setting up that Leonard Nimoy changeup of his.
And the foul tip is held by Pierzynski for strike 3. Reyes is struck out for the second time. That's 6 for Gant, matching his career high. Let's check in with Steve.
Gary, it's unfortunate for Asdrubal Cabrera that Jose Reyes struck out right there, because as we search for reasons behind this incredible hot streak for Asdrubal Cabrera, it probably gets overlooked that it's coinciding timing-wise with his move up to the 2 spot in the lineup permanently, hitting behind Jose Reyes. Asdrubal Cabrera said that when Reyes gets on base, he thinks he gets better pitches to hit because the pitchers split focus, wondering if Reyes is going to go. Cabrera says he sees many more fastballs than he did when anybody else is on base, and actually the numbers, as you take a look here, really back it up per Elias, and this is coming into tonight, so not including tonight, but when there are runners on base not named Jose Reyes this season, 238 average, 396 slugging for Asdrubal Cabrera. But when Reyes is on base, a 458 average and 833 slugging percentage. It's a small sample size, but it's worth watching as we finish out the season here.
Well, I can tell you, hitting in the third spot, Steve, those Cardinal teams, when I had Lou Brock leading off and Gary Templeton hitting second, when they were on base, I got a lot of fastballs. Absolutely.
That's hit sharply, but right at Peterson for the second out. That's 3 hard hit balls for Cabrera tonight. Now 1 for 3. The irony of that is that when right before Terry Collins put Cabrera in that second spot permanently, he had talked about how he was reluctant to move Cabrera to that spot because he had struggled hitting second earlier in the year, but that was mostly before the Mets had Reyes. So it follows, I guess, if you go with what Steve referred to as the small sample size there, that it's not just Cabrera hitting second, but hitting second behind Reyes.
I mean, the only thing lacking for Cabrera in that spot is speed. But the Mets are not a team that relies on the stolen base and speed. So he's a hitter. He's a switch hitter. Perfect.
Cespedes takes the change up in the dirt, and it's 1-1. By the way, the hot streak has also coincided with him going blonde.
Oh, well.
Not that anybody has missed that.
Well, you know blondes have more fun.
I didn't know they got more hits.
Well, that's fun. Depends on your definition of fun. See, you're very narrow in your thinking there.
Fun can come in a lot of different ways. And he doubled down on the platinum yesterday.
Billy Idol.
He's all set. 1-2 to Cespedes.
Whoa.
That one sails over Pierzynski into the backstop. Joe Panik with an RBI double. Giants lead the Diamondbacks 1-0 in the second. Cespedes last time up at an absolute seed to left field, and Kemp made a stumbling diving catch to rob him of a hit. And he takes a vicious hack and fouls one back.
He does take a vicious hack, and then he taps the point of his toe on both his spikes. That's his idiosyncrasy, what he likes to do. He does not get cheated. He is I know he's hitting third, but he's a classic cleanup hitter.
2-2 coming. And he lifts one foul down the right side. John Gant, just his 6th major league start. His only big league win came against the Mets, who traded him away last year. And here he is looking for his 2nd win. And again, pitching well against his old organization.
Cespedes drives one deep left field. Back goes Kemp. Back near the wall. It's out of here. Yoenis Cespedes with his 29th home run of the year. And the Mets go back in front 3-2. Cespedes gets the lift, and the Mets get the lead back 3-2 in the 5th.
Talk about an irreplaceable player.
'29 home runs for Cespedes. The Mets' 194th home run of the year. Now just 6 shy of the club record. And now Curtis Granderson takes inside.
Fastball right down the pipe, didn't sink. Adios, amigo. There's the side shot of this powerful swing. Not much of a stride, Cespedes. There's so much upper body strength. A very strong man.
Granderson badly fooled on the changeup.
Up and down the middle. Yeah, it's gone. Oh well.
He gave it a second look just in case, but he had a pretty good idea. Two and two to Granderson. Well, the Mets were up 2-0. The Braves rallied to tie, and Cespedes gets the lead right back. Well, the changeup misses. 3-2. Granderson on that 4-game home run streak in his hottest juncture of the season. Getting behind Cespedes now regularly in that cleanup spot. And Curtis takes a walk. So Gant, after giving up the home run to Cespedes, walks Granderson, his 3rd walk of the night. And now Jay Bruce is 0 for 2. Drove in a run on a fielder's choice in the 1st inning. And Roger McDowell, the Braves pitching coach, heads out to the mound to talk to Gant.
Well, Jose's a chirp monster. He's always chatting it up in there. Brings a lot of energy. And I just sense this ball club right here just kind of feels it, Gary, that there's no lead insurmountable. Last night was a classic example, down 4 runs.
Here's a bit of Turner Field Mets trivia for you. The first series the Mets ever played here in 1997, they won 3 out of 4. And in all 3 wins, they came from at least 4 runs behind to win. From then until last night, the Mets had never had another game here where they came from 4 runs behind to win. And then they did it last night. So in their first ever series here, they did it 3 times. And now in their last ever series, they come from 4 runs down to win again, with none in between.
That's a good little nugget you got there, Gary.
You like that nugget?
Oh, I do.
It's
good.
It's well mined.
That kicks away from Pierzynski, and that'll move Granderson up to second. A wild pitch from Gant. And now runner in scoring position for Bruce.
Little change. Oh, that's not good fundies by Pierzynski right there. That ricocheted off of his thigh or his knee part of his shin.
So now they're going to walk Bruce intentionally. Wilmer Flores on deck.
Wow.
Gant has struck him out twice. So rather than go after Bruce, who, even though he's been ice cold, is a left-hand power threat, they'll go after the right-hand hitter instead.
Now Wilmer struck out twice. Hasn't been able to make. He seems to be fooled by the changeup, the Vulcan changeup. So we'll see how Gant goes after him. Sometimes they go to that well once too often.
There's ball 4 to Bruce. Second intentional walk ordered by Brian Snitker tonight. They walked d'Arnaud to pitch to Colon in the 4th inning, and that worked out for the Braves.
Oh,
and that's going to be it.
Wow.
They're going to take Gant out. Brandon Caniff has been throwing in the bullpen. And it looks like Caniff is going to come into the game. So Gant will exit after 4 2/3. Got the first 2 men out here in the 5th. But Cespedes' home run has put the Mets back in front. Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, as Cespedes making the difference again. 29th of the year for Yoenis. Mets lead at 3-2 as the Braves go to the bullpen in the 5th. Man out of the Braves bullpen tonight.
Well, this is the 3rd recall from him. He was called up September 3rd. So he's been up and down. Look at his numbers. Really hasn't had much going on. 9 innings pitched in 8 games. Given up 10 hits, 6 walks. Ouch.
Saw him a lot more last year when he was in 39 games for the Braves. And spent a good deal of this year in the minor leagues. That's bullpen. Its bench is lively. After Cespedes' home run put the Mets back in front. Now Flores trying to add to it. Granderson at second. Bruce at first with 2 out. So Flores struck out twice against Gant, and yet they pull Gant with Flores coming up to bring in Caniff. And the fastball rides in on Wilmer. Ball 1.
Wilmer always lets out a bark when the ball gets close to him. Daniel Murphy did the same thing.
Brandon Caniff out of Cal State San Bernardino. And the breaking ball lifted to center, and Inciarte is right there. That retires the side. Cespedes' home run puts the Mets back in front halfway through in Atlanta. 3-2 New York. Hybrid. Reds and Pirates are tied. Phillies and Nationals no score. The Dodgers' Rich Hill has a no-hitter going through 5 against the Marlins. Of more note for Met fans, Brewers lead the Cardinals 1-0 in the bottom of the 6th behind Chase Anderson. The Giants are up 1-0 on the Diamondbacks in the 3rd in Arizona. Mets a half game behind the Giants, half game in front of the Cardinals. Bartolo Colon now with a 1-run lead as Brandon Snyder pinch hits for the Braves, leading off in the bottom of the 5th. Snyder batting for the pitcher Kemp, who came in to get 1 out, and the Braves will go to further action in their bullpen. Snyder lifts one to deep right. Bruce back onto the warning track, feeling for the wall, and makes the catch. So Snyder, who had a home run in that same area against the Mets earlier this year, almost had himself another pinch hit home run and came up a few feet shy.
Close, but no cigar, Gare. Close is only good with horseshoes and hand grenades. I'm sure you've heard that one.
I have. I've thrown many a leaner in my time. Here's Ender Inciarte up for the 3rd time against Colon, who has certainly not been at his sharpest tonight. Inciarte runs his hand up the bat handle, drawing Reyes in a little closer at 3rd. Inciarte doubled to left center in the 1st and scored a run, flied out to center in the 3rd. And taking all the way, 1-1. Inciarte has been a terrific pickup. He came with Dansby Swanson and the pitcher Aaron Blair in the trade for Shelby Miller, who went to Arizona. And you know, Miller may yet evolve into the star pitcher everybody expected him to be, but so far it's been awfully one-sided. Flores makes the play on Inciarte for the 2nd out. I mean, Miller was simply an unlucky pitcher here last year. Had a horrible 1-loss record, but really pitched well most of the season. 6-17 despite that ERA just a shade over 3, kind of like Julio Teheran has been for the Braves this year. But he went to Arizona and he was just dreadful. Look at the numbers at the bottom: 2-11, 6.89.
Go figure.
So Colon with a chance for his first 1-2-3 inning as he takes on Adonis Garcia, who's walked and grounded out.
I mean, the Cardinals thought that they had a pitching staff for around another 10 years.
Shea Simmons up in the Braves pen
with Walker, and Walker's taken a step back. He's had some injuries.
And Miller looked like he was going to be a part of that.
Jaime Garcia, he can't stay healthy.
Well, the one guy in that bunch who has blossomed is Carlos Martinez. And Garcia gets jammed and fouls one off, 1-2. Giants just added a run on a Buster Posey RBI triple, and it's 2-0 Giants in the third. It's not Buster's best season, but he's holding his own. I mean, there have been rumblings in San Francisco that he's been playing hurt all year. And Garcia trying to walk it off after fouling that last ball off his foot. Freddie Freeman standing on deck. Colon trying to leave him there, at least for this inning. And Garcia rockets one foul. Adonis Garcia, 31-year-old from Cuba, first signed by the Yankees. They let him go early last year, and the Braves picked him up. And he has settled in, had a nice season for Atlanta. One-two coming, and he struck him out. Side retired. Only the second strikeout of the night for Colon. He has his first 1-2-3 inning after getting the lead back. On to the sixth at Turner Field. Mets up 3-2. Runs. Braves tied at Cespedes' home run in the fifth, put the Mets back in front, and that leads us to the in-game box score, which is brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. Kelly Johnson getting the start tonight, has a couple of hits. Cespedes has the home run, and the Mets have a 3-2 lead as we go to the sixth. And right-hander Shea Simmons, just his fourth appearance coming back from Tommy John surgery.
Yes, he did have Tommy John surgery. Missed a lot of time. That was back on February 12th, 2015. So they're nursing him back in hopes that he will be a lift for the bullpen.
That's out the lower third of the order coming up. In the top of the sixth, Kelly Johnson, Travis d'Arnaud, Bartolo Colon. It's been another one of those starts for Colon. Didn't look great early, but has settled in. And after giving up the home run to Markakis, has retired 6 in a row and could be destined to go deep into this game, which is something the Mets would love to see. Johnson 2 for 2, single to right, single to center. He's even stolen a base tonight. And Kelly takes a fastball for a strike. Simmons always threw hard, and the numbers will tell you, at least through his first 3 appearances, he's throwing harder now than he did before his Tommy John surgery. averaging over 96 on his fastball. And he's ahead on Johnson 0-2. Simmons out of Southeast Missouri State, just turned 26 years old last week. He actually started pitching again in the minor leagues in May, but then he developed some shoulder tendonitis, and that delayed his return to the big leagues. He's only been up about 10 days. And he sells one outside, 1-2. Travis d'Arnaud on deck. The starter, John Gant, went 4 2/3, allowed 4 hits, 3 runs, only 1 earned run. Walked 4, 2 of those intentionally, struck out 6, a wild pitch and a home run. He's on the hook in this game, but he did not pitch badly at all. And the breaking ball inside to Johnson, 2-2. Brandon Caniff came and got the final out in the 5th, and now Simmons, the 3rd Atlanta pitcher. And that one misses badly, and now it's a full count to Johnson. Simmons debuted with the Braves 2 years ago, was in 26 games for them, was very impressive before he went down with the bad elbow a year ago spring training. 3-2 coming, and Johnson grounds one slowly down to Freeman. Simmons covers, 1 out. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Travis d'Arnaud has struck out and been intentionally walked tonight. They've gone to the 7th in St. Louis. Still Brewers 1, Cardinals nothing. The Giants now lead 3-0 in Arizona as they bat in the 3rd. Only 20 games to go after tonight. And the race for these 2 wild card spots continues to be raging hot. Big cut by d'Arnaud on the fastball. It would appear as though Miami and Pittsburgh have fallen by the wayside. It would take a tremendous run by one of them and a collapse by 2 of the teams in front of them in order for them to make their way back into it.
Yep.
It would be sort of along the lines. That's hit toward the middle of the diamond, and that sneaks through for a base hit. So d'Arnaud snaps an 0 for 10 stretch with a bouncing ball single up the middle, and the Mets have a 1-out base runner.
Baltimore chop. Well placed.
Just beyond Peterson's reach.
Not much he can do with that anyway, even if he made the play.
I was going to say Miami or Pittsburgh getting their way back into the wild card would be akin, because they would have to pass a couple of teams. They're each 5 games back. It's kind of akin to what the Mets would have to do to catch the Nationals. 8 games behind with 21 to play.
You can't lose.
Playoff picture brought to you by Raymore and Flanagan, furnishing your style. So the Marlins and Pirates, the Marlins were ahead of the Mets when they got to Citi Field week before last.
You got 2 teams out of division. Miami's in the East. They'd have to sweep the Mets. Pittsburgh's in the Central. When they play St. Louis, they have to sweep them.
Well, the other thing that would have to happen for one of those teams to come back, as Colon stabs at it, it's caught out of the air by Pierzynski. It'll be a double play. d'Arnaud got caught in between first and second as Pierzynski caught that bunt out of the air. So the Mets have tried it both ways with Colon. Swinging, he grounded into a double play, and bunting, he hits a pop-up into a double play.
I don't know what d'Arnaud was thinking there.
2-4 on the double play to end the inning. Still 3-2. over above and beyond. Nick Markakis hit the home run to briefly tie the game for Atlanta before Cespedes' home run put the Mets back in front. Bartolo Colon's allowed just those 3 hits over the first 5 innings. And he'll take on the heart of the Braves batting order in the 6th. Freeman, Kemp, and Markakis. I was going to say, when we were talking about the chances of Miami or Pittsburgh getting back in the wild card, you know, starting, I think it's next Thursday, the Giants and Cardinals play a 4-game series against each other. So what Miami or Pittsburgh would need was for one of those teams to sweep that 4-game series.
Right. Well, that's the trouble when you got teams above you. You have to climb over. You need help from everybody.
Right.
There's certain things that are out of your hands.
But it would certainly help them if one of them gets knocked backwards and the other survives. Here's Freeman, who's 1 for 2. And he takes a strike. Meanwhile, in Miami tonight, Rich Hill of the Dodgers is working on a perfect game through 6 innings against the Marlins. He's at 75 pitches, 9 strikeouts, 18 up and 18 down for Rich Hill. He was a much sought after commodity at the trading deadline. The Dodgers got him from the A's, and tonight working on some history. Matt Kemp on deck. Jose Ramirez, who pitched last night for the Braves, is up again. Freeman had a base hit to right field his last time up. And the ground ball to Reyes on the right side of the infield. That's a 5-3 put out in your scorecard. 1 out. Well, that's the Cardinals' remaining schedule. So they've got the 4 with the Giants, and they've got 6 with the Cubs. If they can survive that, then their final week it gets a little easier because they play Cincinnati and Pittsburgh at home. But that's a tough schedule.
But they've struggled at home. That's not an easy road right there.
No.
That's difficult.
Well, certainly when you compare it to the Mets schedule, where they have 1 team with a winning record remaining, and that's the 3 in Washington this coming week. Here's Matt Kemp, and Colon keeps it away from him for ball 1. Kemp drove in a run with a sac fly in the first, 0 for 1 on the night. And the Giants now lead 5-0 in Arizona in the 3rd, so it doesn't appear to be tipping the Mets' way tonight. There's a strike. There's the Mets schedule. We mentioned the 3 games in Washington. Every other game against a team that currently has a losing record, including 3 with Minnesota, which has the worst record in baseball. And the Mets took advantage of that. They went into Cincinnati and swept a series from the lowly Reds. Took the first game of this series here in Atlanta and trying to keep the ball rolling tonight. Colon about to throw his 80th pitch with 1 out in the 6th. One-two, and it's too high to Kemp. Colon has struck out only 2 tonight. Walked 1, hit a batter. And Kemp just got a piece of the pitch away. Well, Bartolo Colon is the 3rd pitcher in Major League history to register 13 or more wins in a season at least 4 times after his 40th birthday. The others were Phil Niekro, did it 5 times, and Jamie Moyer, who did it 4 times. And he's going for his 14th win tonight. It's just remarkable.
All different styles of pitchers. Niekro, of course, the knuckleballer.
Kemp launches one to deep left field. Forget it. Cespedes doesn't even move. Kemp has tied up the ball game with his 30th home run of the season. Kemp homers for the 2nd straight night, and he gets the Braves even 3-3.
Boy, do not throw him downstairs.
So twice tonight the Braves have tied the game with home runs. The team that's hit the fewest home runs of any team in the National League.
Down and in. That was a bomb.
It's only the second time in his career that Kemp has hit 30 home runs in a season. He hit 39 for the Dodgers in 2011, the year that he should have won the MVP. Call strike to Markakis. It's his 7th as a Brave, his 30th overall. So we're back even again. Markakis tied the game with a home run leading off the 4th inning. A ball and a strike. But we showed you the graphic earlier about how the Braves offense has changed. For much of the year they have been not only the least powerful offense in the league but the lowest scoring. Not anymore. And Kemp has had a lot to do with that. Braves averaging 5.8 runs over the last 20 games. A much more formidable team to pitch against. Markakis grounds one down to Flores. And Colon over to cover, 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jace Peterson.
Well, there's your contact when the ball's in. That ball's around in almost the inside corner, and you have to go get it without lunging. Look how he's not lunging. His body's straight up and down. Just letting those rotate the hips and let the hands come through.
Let's get the bullpen cranking. Fernando Salas, the right-hander. Josh Edge on the left-hander. You got the left-hand hitter Peterson at the plate. And a check swing tapper right back to Colon. And that'll get him through the inning. But the Braves get even again on Kemp's 30th home run. We're at 3-3 going to the 7th. They do here in Atlanta, much as they do at Citi Field, where they have a fan come and retrieve a base and see if he can beat the clock. The difference is at Citi Field they do it with kids. Here they do it with this guy, and he looked like he blew a tire.
No, he didn't blow a tire. He just didn't lift those legs. He was close.
Honestly, Keith, I'm just glad he's still standing.
I'm glad he's not hurt.
Jose Ramirez will pitch the 7th inning for Atlanta. Top of the batting order. Jose Reyes drives one out to right field, but it dies for Markakis, and that's the first out. Mets Health Report brought to you by Affinity Health Plan, serving the needs of New Yorkers for over 30 years. Jacob deGrom sort of threw 10 pitches off the mound today. He was wearing sneakers at the time, so it doesn't really count as a bullpen session. He's got some forearm soreness, and it's very much an open question as to when or if deGrom will get back in the rotation. Meanwhile, Steven Matz down in Florida threw a dozen pitches off the mound in a more structured bullpen session, and everything seemed to go well as he comes back from the twinge in his shoulder, the impingement as they're calling it. Jose Ramirez worked last night, got 2 outs at the end of the Mets rally in the 8th inning. He was the guy who finally put the inning to rest, but not before hitting Michael Conforto with a pitch to force in a run. Ian Kroll up in the Braves bullpen now. Cabrera's 1 for 3 tonight. And that's below the knees, 2-1. As Dribble hooks one foul deep down the right field line. That one had home run distance, but foul all the way.
Got him out in front.
Taken low, and now full count to Cabrera with Cespedes waiting on deck. Jose Ramirez on the mound for the Braves. Not the only Jose Ramirez working in the big leagues these days. Got the Jose Ramirez in Cleveland, who's done a nice job for the Indians this year. And Cabrera bounces one foul. They've gone to the 8th in St. Louis. Still Milwaukee 1, St. Louis nothing. And the scores are back up on the out-of-town scoreboard.
Very nice.
So now the Mets can scoreboard watch and see that Arizona's got a run on a Peter O'Brien home run. That's smacked to right field. Markakis toward the gap, gets over there, and sinks a little bit, and he stays with it for the second out. The ball had a lot of topspin on it. And Markakis able to make the play.
Used to call those humpback line drives.
So 2 out and nobody on, and now Cespedes, who stepped to the plate in the 5th inning with 2 out and nobody on in a tie game, and launched his 29th home run of the year to give the Mets the lead. That disappeared when Matt Kemp hit an even longer home run in the bottom of the 6th to tie it again. And it takes a strike.
Here's the 5th inning home run. The fastball up, down the middle. Number 29.
So the powerfully built left fielders have traded home runs.
And both teams have traded runs here. It's been a back and forth game.
Cespedes lunging for the slider and fouls it off. Mets are trying to win their 7th game this year at Turner Field. The Mets have never won 7 games on the road from the Braves in a season anywhere. They never did it in Milwaukee. They never did it at Fulton County Stadium. That's booted by Garcia. He recovers in time to throw out Cespedes, and that ends the inning. So Ramirez sets the Mets down 1-2-3. Stretch time, tied at 3. Going up in suburban Atlanta, Northwest and Cobb County. And they didn't quite build it this quick, but you get the idea about the way they put together new ballparks these days.
Well, if they could put it together that fast, look at the money you'd save.
It's like Delta got their sign up just in time. Very nice. And the Braves will be playing there next year. And the Mets will get their first look at SunTrust Park next season. Bartolo Colon done after 6 innings. Fernando Salas will come in for the bottom of the 7th. Dansby Swanson leads off and grounds the first pitch foul. Salas has been terrific for the Mets since they acquired him from the Angels. So Colon done 87 pitches over 6 innings, 3 runs, 4 hits, a walk, 2 strikeouts, a hit batsman, and 2 home runs. And a no decision tonight for Colon. Swanson's been up twice, grounded out both times, and Salas misses with a breaking ball, 1-1. Salas making his 5th appearance for the Mets. He's given up 2 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts, no runs in his first 4 outings.
His stuff is not overpowering. He's a veteran. He knows how to pitch. But he's pitched his way into the 7th inning here. And Terry's got confidence in him.
Well, the Mets have been searching for that guy, and so far Salas has filled the role. Swanson pops one foul, and that'll head into the seats out of play. 2-2. Salas was in 58 games for the Angels before the trade, and his numbers were not very encouraging. 56 innings, 4.47 ERA, 9 home runs allowed. But so far so good for the native of Huatabampo in Mexico. And the breaking ball foul down the right side. Again, Flores gives chase, but that goes out of play. It's the best way to start your weekday. Join Suki, Scott, and the Pix 11 News team with breaking news as it happens. Linda Church has your forecast 6 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, bringing you the heart of the story. Two to Swanson coming, and he drills that down the line. Foul. Just barely missed an extra base hit.
Well, this is what I like about this young man. He had a home run foul yesterday, pretty far back down the left field line. Very quick bat.
Swanson went 3 for 3 last night. A.J. Pierzynski on deck, and then the pitcher spot for the Braves, who have come from behind twice to tie the game with home runs. Markakis in the 4th, Kemp in the 6th. Colon had allowed just a total of 2 home runs over his previous 7 starts, but 2 home runs tonight cost him a chance for a win. Swanson fouls it straight down on the changeup. Still 2-2.
It's a very game brave team here. They don't quit, they hustle.
Josh Smoker, who got the Mets out of a big jam last night, is up in the bullpen. Also Robles looks like he's about to throw as well. 7th pitch of the at bat coming to Swanson, and he lays off. 3-2. Swanson leading off in the home 7th, and he hits it hard. Reyes has it eat him up, and it goes into left field. Swanson takes a turn and a hold as Cespedes gets it in quickly. Well, a hot shot, too hot for Reyes to handle, and Swanson has a base hit.
Similar at bat he had last night against in the 8th inning off Addison Reed. Jose olays it a bit. The ball was a bullet. Impressive AB by the youngster.
And Swanson not about to challenge Cespedes' arm. So the tie-breaking run at first with nobody out. And A.J. Pierzynski, the batter, he's been hit by a pitch and flied out to left, 0 for 1. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Gordon Beckham has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. Pierzynski grounds one down to first. Flores has got it to second for one. Relay to first. In time for the 3-6-3 double play. Mets' first base play in this series has been outstanding. Flores starts and finishes one. 2 out and nobody on.
Looked like Wilmer had a little trouble getting it out of the glove, but Pierzynski he didn't have trouble getting it out. He just wasn't sure he had the ball on the ground, and they did get him. Oh, the ball scooted and it almost went underneath his glove. Woo.
And now they're waiting to see if the Braves are going to challenge. And again, they're giving them 10 minutes to figure this out. This has got to be quicker. If you're going to challenge, then challenge. It's got to be a time limit. That's the one tweak they've got to make to this rule. There's got to be a time limit.
Well, the other tweak is I just get rid of this the discretion of the crew chief.
Yeah, they are not going to challenge. Pierzynski out by an eyelash at first.
By less than a half a step.
So 2 out and nobody on. And now Gordon Beckham will be the pinch hitter. Beckham appeared as a pinch hitter last night, hit into a fielder's choice. And he gets one in the air to left field. Cespedes should have plenty of room. And that retires the side. Salas gives up a leadoff hit, gets the double play. We head to the 8th, tied at 3. Retailer Rich Hill did have a perfect game through 7, but he just came out of the game. 89 pitches. They took him out with a perfect game intact. Joe Blanton in relief. There's never been a combined perfect game in Major League history. Keon Broxton with a home run for the only run. They go to the bottom of the 8th. Milwaukee leading St. Louis 1-0. Buster Posey with a couple of hits, triple RBI, and the Giants lead the Diamondbacks 5-1 in the 5th. Well, Ian Kroll will be the 5th Atlanta pitcher of the night.
He pitched last night. He relieved starter Julio Teheran. Had a very clean inning, 1-2-3 and a strikeout. The world's turned upside down, Gare. Perfect game and you're out. Okay.
Well, in defense of Dave Roberts, in this case, Hill has only made a couple of starts since coming back from that blister that kept him out for a month. So I'm sure that's part of the reason why.
I'd like to plead our cases against each other in a court of law.
I'm not pleading a case. I'm just trying to lay out all the facts. I have no dog in this fight. 1-1 to Granderson, who is 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. Kroll worked a 1-2-3 7th last night. So far, the Braves bullpen has worked 2 1/3 innings without allowing a run. Granderson hits one off the pitcher's leg. Kroll with time to go after it and throws out Granderson. Now the question is, Kroll okay after taking that shot off the shins? And the trainer's going to come out and have a look.
And that did get the shin. So hang with him by Curtis, although I think they had to shift up the middle on him. That might have gotten him more towards the foot.
Yeah, might have gotten more foot than shin. He lifted his foot a little bit.
I always found when you reach down, when you get hit like that, Gary, you just reach down, get a little bit of dirt, handful, and rub it into the wound a little bit, and it works wonders. You'd be surprised.
Into the actual wound or like on the uniform pants?
On the uniform.
Yeah.
It works. It's amazing.
So you're saying that you're from the rub a little dirt on it school?
Oh, just having a little fun.
Well, it was his left foot or leg that got hit, so it's his push-off leg. And he is convinced Brian Snitker and Jim Lovell, the assistant athletic trainer, that he's okay. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Hurry into your local Tri-Honda dealer for great savings on 2016 models. So Kroll gets the first out in the 8th, and now he'll face Jay Bruce, who's 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. Did drive in a run with a first inning fielder's choice, hustling to beat out a double play. And he takes up and away for ball 1. Bruce faced Kroll last night and flied out to center field. Kroll throws it by Bruce, 1-1. Jay is 1 for 13 on this road trip, hitting under 200 in his 33 games as a Met. Half swing, did he go? He did. 1-2. You know, the Mets have gotten Granderson going in this last week. If they can just get Bruce untracked, what a huge weapon that could be. Addison Reed getting ready to pitch in the bottom of the 8th. One-two coming, and he lifts one foul. Wilmer Flores waiting on deck. Will they lead the left-hander in to face Wilmer?
I bet not.
1-2, and Bruce fouls it off. I mean, Wilmer's numbers against lefties are just spectacular.
Off the charts.
And Bruce goes down on the high fastball, so Kroll picks up his first strikeout, and there are 2 men down, and they will leave the lefty in to face Flores. Our next picks telecast will be a week from tonight when the Mets play the Twins next Saturday at Citi Field. 7 o'clock game. A week from tonight right here on Picks 11.
Well, Gary, Wilmer's numbers against left-handers: .333 batting average with 99 at-bats, 11 home runs, 28 RBI, 697 slug.
So Brian Snitker will let that play, and Flores will get a crack at Kroll. Well, the Cardinals have tied it up in the bottom of the 8th. Wilmer cracks one down the left field line, hooking, foul. Hit it hard, but got a little ahead of it. Cardinals got that run on an RBI ground out to tie up the Brewers. 1-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Kroll with a 2-strike advantage on Flores, who's 0 for 3 tonight. And Wilmer drives one out to center field, chasing in Ciarte, back to the warning track at the wall. It's off the fence. Flores on his way to second and slides in safely with a 2-out double. Did not miss a home run by much. Brian Snitker tempted fate, leaving the lefty in to face Flores, and Flores hit one off the fence.
Likes that ball down and in. Lucky he didn't pull it. The base of the wall. So Wilmer now 340, 34 for 100 on the button.
Now T.J. Rivera is going to bat for Kelly Johnson, and I don't think they had a right-hander up in the bullpen. I think they're getting somebody up just now. Roger McDowell's going out to the mound, so they're going to leave Kroll in to face Rivera, and you've got Travis d'Arnaud behind him. So Terry Collins making the move, even though Kelly Johnson's had innumerable big hits. He's not going to leave him in against the left-hander. He'll go to T.J. Rivera instead. Now T.J., who won the Pacific Coast League batting title, had a bunch of really good at-bats for the Mets in his first days in the major leagues, but he has cooled down.
Well, he hasn't had hardly any playing time.
0 for his last 11 at the big league level. Had a pinch hitting at bat last night and fouled out. So Rivera bats for Johnson with the go-ahead run at second with 2 out. And we'll see if TJ can become the latest Mets hero. Goes after the first pitch fastball, 0-1.
Well, we kind of knew he'd be hacking at the first one. He likes to swing that bat, and you're pinch hitting, you got to swing. Get a fastball, go out, get after it.
Bronx native, undrafted, now a AAA batting champion, looking to get a big hit for the big club. And he fouls it away, and Kroll again gets ahead 0-2. Rivera edged out his teammate Brandon Nimmo for that PCL batting title in the final at bats of the season. In fact, the Las Vegas 51s had the 1, 2, and 3 hitters in that league. 0-2 coming, and he takes outside. Gavin Cecchini finished third in the PCL batting race behind Rivera and Nimmo. Travis d'Arnaud would be next. One-two from Kroll, but first a look at Flores. Peterson playing close to the bag, so Wilmer can't get far away.
I don't know where he's thinking that Wilmer's gonna try to steal a base.
Colton Wong with an RBI single to put the Cardinals in front, 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th. 1-2 to Rivera.
And he lines one the other way. That's a base hit. Flores to third. He's being waved home. Markakis is thrown to the plate. Pierzynski puts down the tag. Flores is out. And Wilmer shaken up as he tried to go in head first against Pierzynski and lost that battle. Nick Markakis guns him down at the plate, and the side is retired.
That's one of the reasons why you never want to slide head first into a catcher. He's got the equipment on. Nice throw. He had to back up a little bit, Markakis. Not a strong arm, but this is a perfect one-hopper for the catcher.
And right into the shin guards with his shoulder. And you're right, Keith. This is why you never go head first in a home plate.
You've got to knock the catcher on his keister right here. He could have really severely hurt his neck.
His neck and his head and his shoulder all hitting that shin guard. Wilmer up on his feet, walking gingerly off toward the dugout.
Well, speed here kills the Mets. Wilmer doesn't run well. He's dead as a doornail at home.
Only question was Pierzynski being able to play that hop and get the tag down. He did, and then he crushed Flores, who goes in head first and pays for it. Rivera with the hit, but the Mets turned aside. Still 3-3 going to the bottom of the 8th. .com. And it is the throw by Nick Markakis gunning down Wilmer Flores at the plate. And Flores shaken up, and he's coming out of the game.
Well, there you see, he got right into the shin with his head. That's just do not. That is a cardinal rule. You do not slide in head first. The catcher's got the equipment on.
So James Loney will replace Flores. He'll play first base. T.J. Rivera, who got the base hit that almost got the Mets the lead, stays in to play second, and Addison Reed will pitch the bottom of the 8th for New York. Reed worked last night, a scoreless 8th inning. He'll face the top of the batting order. Ender Inciarte will lead off. 70th appearance of the year for Addison Reed. And Inciarte pops one up into shallow left. On comes Cespedes and reaches down to make the shoestring catch for the first out. He just had enough to get there. One away.
Had it all the way.
Yeah. We're waiting to hear about the Mets batting order. Terry Collins spent an extra moment talking with 2 of the umpires, including the crew chief Tom Hallion, because he had to make an adjustment in his plans from what he had intended to do with his batting order because Flores came out of the game.
Well, I gotta believe that Reed's in the Flores' spot.
Is he in Adonis Garcia?
And Loney would be in the 9 spot.
I would assume that.
And he's hitting second next inning.
Except that Reed is probably only going to pitch 1 inning, and so he might not want it to have double switched. So we'll see.
It's not home, so you're not going to bring in Familia in a tie game in the 9th.
That's a good point. So you might want to go beyond an inning with Reed, except that I think the feeling is that Reed has been pretty overworked lately.
I don't think he'll go another inning with Reed. I think that he's got enough bullpen, enough arms. Robles possibly. I'll take a look at the order coming up. You got 2 left-handers next inning. Probably, I bet you he comes with either Blevins or Smoker next inning.
According to the scoreboard, Loney is batting 9th. So he would be due up second in the inning, and the pitcher goes in Flores' spot.
It's top of the order for the Braves. Inciarte leads off. Freeman, you want a left-hander out there.
Garcia drives one to right. Bruce coming on, and that's the second out. So 2 up and 2 set aside. And now Freddie Freeman will come up with the bases empty.
Oops, I apologize, Gary. It's Markakis and Peterson. So after this inning,
the official score is saying he is not 100% certain which way the Mets are batting, so we might have to just wait and see. In any event, Freeman bats with 2 out and nobody on. 1 for 3 on the night. And that goes to the backstop. I would assume Jim Johnson is going to pitch the 9th for the Braves. We've not yet seen into the Atlanta bullpen. He's been closing games for them, and generally, and there he is, generally if you've got a tie game at home, when you get to the 9th, you bring in your closer. Reed throws the fastball by Freeman, 1-1. And the slider at his feet. 2-1. Freeman 2 for 3 in his career against Addison Reed. Matt Kemp would be next. And Freeman takes a big rip. 2-2.
He's blind there. If you got a good cutter, you can get him there. Look at the angle of his bat. It's almost like he's a golf swing almost with the angle of his bat. It's very difficult to make contact.
Well, if you go back to the very first at bat for Freeman tonight, that's what Colon was trying to do to him all night.
So that's how the Mets want to attack Freddie, and I agree.
3-2 coming. That's pulled into the shift. Rivera's there to grab it. Side retired. Addison Reed works a 1-2-3 bottom of the 8th. On we go to the 9th in Atlanta. Mets and Braves tied at 3. Donuts. Mets twice have had the lead in this game. The Braves rallying twice on home runs by Markakis and Kemp to tie. And now we go to the ninth inning, tied 3-3. And the Braves go to their veteran closer, the sinker baller Jim Johnson.
Well, he's become their closer. Closed for Baltimore. He's bounced around, found a home here in Atlanta.
So we figured out the Mets lineup situation. The Mets did not double switch. They left the pitcher in the 9-hole and put Loney in Flores' spot, the 6th spot. And the reason we know that is because Alejandro Diaz is going to bat for Travis d'Arnaud, and then Michael Conforto is out on deck to bat for the pitcher. So that's the way the Mets will line it up against Johnson in the top of the ninth. Cardinals 5 runs home in the bottom of the 8th now, and they've opened up a 5-1 lead against the Brewers. So a timely rally by the Cardinals tonight. So here is De Aza to bat against Johnson, and he takes a fastball for a strike.
You see, when you have all these September call-ups and you've got this strong bench, managers don't have to flip-flop so much. You got so many pitchers in your bullpen.
Yeah, I just didn't think there was any chance they were going to let Reed work more than an inning.
Well, you could have lifted him anyway, no matter where you put him in the order.
Right, but there was no reason to double switch if you weren't going to give him the extra inning. Keith just lost his headset.
I did.
Now he's back. Back in the fold. Breaking ball by Johnson, misses 2-1. Jim Johnson has had the closer's role off and on this year. 15 saves and 18 opportunities. Spent some time on the disabled list with a groin strain earlier in the year.
Met fans come to life. Interesting that Terry Collins pinch hits for d'Arnaud, who has been struggling. And I agree right here. You got a classic leadoff hitter, right-hand pitcher, left-hand hitter.
And remember, it was De Aza who started the rally last night in the 8th inning by drawing a leadoff walk. Mets scored 4 in the 8th to go in front last night. He bloops this one to shallow right center. Over comes Inciarte to get it. 1 out. It's a situation where a lot of teams in a tie game in the 9th inning might have been playing deeper, no doubles. The Braves did not, and that put Inciarte in the right spot to catch that. So now it's Conforto. Michael's been struggling coming off the bench. He was hit on the bounce by a pitch with the bases loaded last night to drive in the final run in the Mets' 6-4 win. But the hits have been hard to come by for Michael coming off the bench since his return from Las Vegas. He bats here with 1 out and nobody on, with Jose Reyes on deck. And Conforto takes a curveball for a strike.
That's all they're feeding him, Gary. They're not giving him any fastballs first pitch. They're throwing him a diet of breakers.
A ball and a strike to Conforto. Braves have now used 6 pitchers tonight. Their bullpen has now thrown 3 2/3 innings without allowing a run, behind the starter John Gant. And Conforto golfs 1 foul, and it's 1-2. Hansel Robles if the Mets don't get the lead. Jerry's Familia if they do. Mets with 3 runs and 7 hits. The Braves 3 runs, 5 hits. We're in the 9th. And Conforto takes a fastball just up out of the strike zone, 2-2. Big crowd tonight on Chipper Jones bobblehead night. And Conforto just got a piece of the curveball. Still 2-2.
Just got a piece.
Michael is 3 for 13 as a pinch hitter this year. Two from Jim Johnson. To right center, over comes Inciarte, and he makes the running grab. 2 out.
Inciarte can cover some ground, Gary.
He almost ran past this ball. It's a good player.
Boy, he looked like he was in pain making that catch.
Contorting himself. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Reyes, who's 0 for 3 and a walk, 0 for 8 in this series. And Johnson gets that sinker in for a strike. Reyes 1 for 4 in his career against Jim Johnson. Ball and a strike. They've gone to the 9th in St. Louis. Cardinals off a 5-run 8th lead Milwaukee 5-1. And the former Met farmhand Matt Bowman in to try and close it out. Curveball misses to Reyes. 2-1. Meanwhile, the Giants are up 5-1 in Arizona. They're in the middle of the 6th. 2-1 coming, and Reyes pops it up. Inciarte with all 3 putouts in the inning. And Johnson gets the Mets 1-2-3. Going to the bottom of the 9th, still tied 3-3. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Mohegan Sun, full of action, full of possibilities, full of life. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Mets and Braves tied 3-3. Mets have a new battery in the game.
A very game Atlanta Brave ball club.
Rene Rivera comes in to catch after d'Arnaud left for a pinch hitter, and Hansel Robles in to pitch the bottom of the 9th.
Well, Robles pitched last night, got his 6th win. Pitched a very clean, well, not a clean, he had 2 walks, 1 intentional, but nonetheless a scoreless inning to get the W.
Fernando Salas and Addison Reed each working a scoreless inning out of the bullpen after Bartolo Colon went the first 6, allowed 3 runs and 4 hits. Matt Kemp will lead off in the last of the 9th for Atlanta. It was Kemp's home run in the bottom of the 6th that tied up this game. His 30th home run of the season. He's also had a sacrifice fly tonight, so he's driven in 2 of the 3 Atlanta runs. It's a final in St. Louis. The Cardinals have defeated the Brewers 5-1, scoring all 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Adam Wainwright worked the first 8 innings, got his 11th win. So the Mets must win this game to stay in front of St. Louis in the wild card standings. And to do that, they'll have to get this game to extra innings. Kemp, Markakis, and Peterson for Robles in the bottom of the ninth. And the first pitch breaking ball misses inside. It's been an up and down couple of months for Robles. Retired his first 2 hitters last night, then walked a couple before striking out Tyler Flowers to get through the 7th inning of last night's game. Broken bat pop up. Loney should have plenty of room. And Kemp is retired, 1 out. Well, according to the official score, Terry Collins double switched Rivera and Robles. So Rivera's in the 9 hole. The pitcher is batting 8th. And now Terry's going to take Robles out of the game after 1 batter. With the left-hand hitters Markakis and Peterson coming up, he'll go to Jerry Blevins. Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. 3-3 in the bottom of the 9th. We'll be right back to Turner Field. With 2 left-hand hitters coming up.
Well, there's Blevins' numbers. He's kind of gone through a little bit of a tough period. Last time out, they struck out the big, powerful left-hand hitting Joey Votto in Cincinnati and brought such ire on Votto that Votto broke his bat over his knee.
Not even by reaching up and smashing it on his knee. He just pushed it against his knee and broke it.
Actually, his thigh, right?
Yeah. Nick Markakis hit a home run back in the 4th inning, his 10th of the year. He's just 2 for 14 in his career against Blevins. 1 out and nobody on, last of the 9th. And Markakis takes a fastball strike. Blevins' problems recently have not been against right-hand hitters. It's been against left-hand hitters. That's his bread and butter. But perhaps that strikeout of Votto points him back in the right direction.
Well, Terry Collins has a lot of bodies now with these September call-ups, and he's managing to win.
A ball and a strike to Markakis. Jace Peterson, another left-hand hitter, waiting on deck. Braves have an all right-handed bench. Eric Goodell, next man up in the Mets bullpen. Probably if it gets down to Dansby Swanson, who is 2 batters away. One and 1 to Markakis, and he pulls one on the ground right at Rivera, and TJ throws him out, 2 away. That's going with the 2 Rivera look right now, with TJ at second and Rene behind the plate.
Very stylish.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Peterson, who's been up 3 times, grounded out all 3, hit 1 ball really hard, and Reyes made a nice backhand pick to throw him out back in the 4th. Braves have had only 5 hits tonight, only 1 against the Mets bullpen. And the curveball in for a strike to Peterson. Salas, Reed, Robles, Blevins have retired 7 in a row combined. And the curveball has Peterson wailing, and it's 0-2. One and 2 to Jace Peterson. And the curveball gets him. Side retired. And we head to extra innings in Atlanta. So Blevins gets the 2 left-hand hitters out. Mets bullpen shining again tonight. We're heading to the 10th. Mets and Braves tied at 3.
You by Land Rover, Above and Beyond. By Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. By Honda, great deals are waiting at your Honda dealer. By Geico, 15 minutes saves you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. By the JetBlue card. And by M&T Bank, understanding what's important. What a game we got tonight, folks. I'm glad you're here with us in Atlanta.
I am so proud of you. That was as good a reading of billboards as I've heard all year.
I observed you do all these things, Gary. I'm watching.
Yeah, maybe a little too closely. I take my job one of these days. Chris Withrow is on to pitch the 10th inning for Atlanta.
Having himself a decent season. 43 games, only 34 2/3. Not a whole lot of work.
As Dribble Cabrera, Yoenis Cespedes, Curtis Granderson up for the Mets in the 10th. The Mets' 10th extra inning game of the season. It's the Braves' 22nd extra inning game of the season. That's a lot of extra inning games. Atlanta's 10-11 in extra inning affairs. Mets are 5-4. The word on Wilmer Flores that he suffered a neck contusion on his ill-fated headfirst slide into home plate.
ill-advised.
Ball and a strike to Cabrera, who's 1 for 4 tonight. Has hit the ball hard 4 times in a row.
Well, these games are important now. They're nail biters. I tell you what, this Brave team has got fight.
Well, it's a team that really has played much better down the stretch of the season. And they have given the Mets a battle 2 nights in a row. 1-1 to Cabrera, and the fastball away from Withrow. 2-1. Now the Cardinals have won, so they've drawn even with the Mets. So the Mets need to win to stay ahead of them. The Giants are winning big. They're up 6-1, 7-1 now in Arizona in the 7th.
Well, you want to keep that momentum going. Mets working on to extend a 6-game winning streak.
And Cabrera lays off, and Withrow behind 3-1.
Find a way to get on base by hook or crook.
Withrow will walk people. 16 walks in 34 innings. Cabrera hooks one foul. 3-2. Well, the Braves are on their 7th pitcher tonight. I don't know if you saw the box score this morning, but the Arizona Diamondbacks in their 12-inning game against the Giants last night used 12 pitchers.
Oh, wow.
A major league record.
That had to be a delight.
3-2 coming to Cabrera. And he lifts one to center field. And Ciarte was playing deep, but plenty of time to get under it. 1 out.
4 straight putouts for Ciarte.
It's a good poker hand. 4/8.
That'll win you some cash.
Here is Cespedes, whose home run in the 5th inning gave the Mets a 3-2 lead at the time, before Kemp's home run in the 6th inning tied it up. Cespedes 1 for 4 on the night.
Day game tomorrow. These extra inning games, when you've got to get up early, late in the season, it's important to win these games. Send the other team home with an L.
And the Mets have already had some extra inning success against the Braves this year. They had a game here in June that Kelly Johnson won with an 11th inning home run. Good slider by Withrow to get out on Cespedes. 0-2.
Good spot.
Three infielders stacked on the left side against Ioannis, with Garcia playing right on the line. And he chops one foul. Brandon Caniff, Shea Simmons, Jose Ramirez, Ian Kroll, Jim Johnson, all pitching scoreless relief for the Braves tonight, behind the starter John Gant, who allowed just 1 earned run in 4 2/3.
How many at bats have we seen of Cespedes where he fights off good sliders with 2 strikes and they throw one too many and run a hanger up there and he loses it?
And that slider stays inside. 1-2. Chris Withrow, who began his career with the Dodgers, now 27 years old, first round pick by the Dodgers. 1-2 coming, and Cespedes pops one foul.
Oh, that was the
back in the crowd.
That was the one right there, Gary. That was hanging on just from the tree limb. Said, "Here, hit me," and he fouled it back. Missed it.
Curtis Granderson waiting on deck. 1-2 to Cespedes. And he flies one to shallow right. Markakis comes in. 2 out. 2 batters, 2 towering fly balls, 2 outs. And now Granderson, who's gone 0 for 3 in a walk tonight.
Hasn't hit a home run.
Not since yesterday. He's homered in 4 straight games coming into this one. Be a perfect time to extend that streak.
It certainly would.
Withrow's given up 5 home runs this year in 35 innings. And Curtis takes a rip at a fastball, 0-1. Granderson with 6 home runs in his last 33 at bats. Hottest he's been all year. He lays off. Ball and a strike.
Big shift on the infield again. Curtis all the time. It's nothing new. Not as big a shift, but 3 people over there on that right side of the infield.
Surprised they don't play the second baseman a little deeper against Granderson. He runs well, but not that well. 2-1 to Granderson. Jay Bruce would be next. Mets 3 runs, 7 hits. The Braves 3 runs and 5 hits. A rare game where the Mets have been out-homered so far tonight. That's just foul, especially when you consider that the Mets came into the night second in the league in home runs, and the Braves came into the night dead last in the league in home runs. But Markakis and Kemp have gone deep for Atlanta. Cespedes for New York.
The crowd has stayed here, have not left. They're here to watch this ball game.
Chipper Jones bobblehead night, bringing out 47,000 plus. 2-2 to Granderson with 2 out and nobody on. And Curtis pops one up. Garcia going toward the line. Side retired. So Chris Withrow sets the Mets down 1-2-3. We go to the bottom of the 10th, still tied up. Mets. Bartolo Colon started, gave up a couple of home runs. Bullpen has kept the Braves off the board over the last 3 innings. Salas, Reed, Robles, Blevins. And now we go to the bottom of the 10th in a 3-3 game. And Eric Goodell will take over the pitching. Goodell's first big league appearance is August the 24th in St. Louis. It has been a struggle for Goodell. His last 4 big league outings, he's given up runs in every one of them. He's been up and down between Las Vegas and New York all year. In those last 4 outings, 7 runs and 10 hits over 3 innings of work. And he'll try and hold the lower third of the order at bay in the bottom of the 10th. Dansby Swanson, A.J. Pierzynski, and the pitcher's spot due up. Swanson was the last Braves hitter to reach. He had a base hit to left field that's scooted by Reyes in the 7th inning. He was a race in a double play, and Braves have not had another base runner since. So Goodell, the 6th Met pitcher of the night, ready to face Swanson. And a letter high strike, 0-1. There was a period through part of July and into the middle of August when Goodell was very effective.
Yes.
Throwing his splitter like that and his curveball. But it all seemed to back up on him the latter part of August before he got sent down the last time. And that misses low. 1-2. Josh Smoker, next man up in the Mets bullpen. Everybody this time of year has plenty of arms. Plenty of arms and generally plenty of bench. That's stroked into center field, a base hit. One splitter too many from Goodell. And Swanson's aboard to lead off the bottom of the 10th.
This kid really is impressive. That was a good pitch. Watch him go down and get this splitter. This is not a bad pitch. That's just, this kid can hit.
Well, he had 3 hits last night, 2 hits tonight.
Boy, he tracked that one nicely. Splitter is going to sink. Watch him go down and get it. Very nice.
So now A.J. Pierzynski. See what he's called upon to do. Last time up with Swanson aboard, he had a ground ball into a double play. So would you ask Pierzynski to bunt?
No. I don't think so. I don't think I would.
Tyler Flowers is coming out on deck to pinch hit. It's an all right-handed bench for the Braves. So that's probably the best recommendation for Pierzynski to swing the bat. But
you got a left-hand hitter up, a right-hand pitcher. You got a first baseman holding a runner on. Look for something to pull in that hole. Make it first and third.
And he does square. Pushes the bunt foul.
I don't agree with this. Even if Pierzynski's hitting only what is he hitting? 215?
Well, it's certainly been a different kind of year for Pierzynski than last year when he had a tremendous season at age 38. Hit over 300 last year, or actually hit exactly 300 last year. He has not had a sacrifice bunt since 2014. His last sacrifice bunt came as a member of the Red Sox. It's 2 teams ago for Pierzynski. Reyes has creeped in a little closer at third after that first bunt attempt, and he squares and takes up and away. 1-1. Pierzynski was hit on the elbow by Colon his first time up. Since then he's flied out and grounded into a double play. 0 for 2. Swanson had 13 stolen bases in the minors this year, only 1 so far in the big leagues. And that one sails to the backstop, and that'll get Swanson to second.
Wow.
So Goodell with the very wild pitch. And now the winning run is in scoring position with nobody out.
Now I bunt, Gare. Get him to third. That just sailed. Not even close.
So now Goodell finds himself in a real pickle. A leadoff hit by Swanson. He takes second on the wild pitch. 2-1 to Pierzynski. Now Loney comes in a little closer at first, looking for the bunt. And he's set to swing, and he grounds one foul. So the bunt was off. Nice grab by Eddie Perez. First base coach made it look easy.
Boy, I tell you, Brian Snitker is doing everything I would do in reverse.
It's like opposite day.
Yep. But he's the skipper.
So now it's 2-2 to Pierzynski with Swanson at second and nobody out. And Goodell sells another one high, 3-2. Coming up next on Pix 11, it's the Pix 11 News with Corey Chambers on SNY. It's WB Mason post game live. Full count to Pierzynski. Flowers on deck to pinch hit. Not the end of the world if you walk Pierzynski in this spot.
You don't want to walk him. Need an out.
And it's hit sharply through the hole, a base hit. That'll get Swanson to third. He'll be held up there. So Pierzynski gets one by Cabrera, and the Braves are poised, first and third and nobody out.
Good base running by the young. Good hitting, number one. Let's start with that. He thinks he's won the game. The game's not over. Now watch the runner top the screen. Ball's hit to his left. He can't advance. He's got to make sure it goes through. It's good base running by the youngster right there. Good base running.
Pierzynski's going to come out for a pinch runner. Matt Whistler, a pitcher, will run for him, presumably to break up a double play, which is a weird spot to put a pitcher in because that run means nothing. And Tyler Flowers will be the pinch hitter batting for the pitcher. So
do you walk the bases loaded?
Well, the next hitter is the left-hand batter, Inciarte. I think you got to go after Flowers, try to strike him out.
I agree.
Well, Mets with their backs against the wall here in the bottom of the 10th. A struggling Eric Goodell has given up back-to-back hits surrounding a wild pitch. And now the winning run at third with nobody out.
And the Mets have to, I'm not telling anything new that you don't know, they have to bring the infield in. That runner scores, the game's over.
And they have to bring the outfield in too. Granderson is playing way too deep. He can't throw from that far away. Cespedes with the best arm in left field. Bruce an average arm in right field. So here's Flowers, winning run at third and nobody out. And he takes the pitch high. Splitter that stayed up, ball one. Flowers started last night, went 1 for 5, struck out his last 3 at bats, and that's what you're looking for here if you're Goodell. The strikeout to get to the first out. And Flowers bangs one off his leg, a foul ball. 1-1. Well, it's something that people talk about all the time. The conventional strategy for managers is to not bring in your closer in the bottom of the 9th in a tie game on the road.
Right.
And Terry stuck with that strategy as he has all the time.
I agree with it. So you got all these pitchers, they're there to get people out.
So Goodell asked to keep the Braves at bay, and now he's a fly ball away from letting this one get away. 1-1. Flowers swings at the high splitter, or fastball that time, and it's 1-2.
I think the one move that Terry may rue is that 9th inning when he brought in Robles just to get the one out. Was Kemp, of course, but maybe he could have kept Robles and brought in Blevins for that full inning and had Robles now for this extra innings if it happened. But you got to manage
Flowers
the win.
strikes out on the fastball for the first out. There's a huge out for Eric Goodell. So one away. Now the question is, with the speedy Inciarte at the plate, where do you play your infield? Now Terry looks like he's going to make a pitching change. He's got the lefty Josh Smoker ready to go. And the Mets will make a double switch. Ty Kelly is coming on the field. And Smoker will come in to face Inciarte. So the Mets trying to hold the fort here in the bottom of the 10th. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. We'll be right back to Atlanta. Ender Inciarte with the winning run at third. First and third, one out, and Terry Collins is going to go with unconventional strategy here. He brings Ty Kelly in the game to replace Curtis Granderson in a double switch, and Kelly will not be used as an outfielder. He'll be used as a fifth infielder.
Well, it's not that much. It's not that unconventional. This is the proper move. You've got to have the infield here. A fly ball is going to beat you. You got your two strong arms in the outfield.
Now the question is, with two outfielders, where do you play them? And they're going to play Cespedes straight up in left and Bruce just to the right of center field. They're going to leave left field open against the right field open against the left-hand hitter Inciarte.
So if you're a hitter, you're going to be going up the middle. You're going to try to protect the plate and just get a little fly ball out there up the middle. So I agree with the positioning of the outfielders. Expose right field. Inciarte, on the other hand, has had a terrific year against left-handers.
So the Mets with five infielders, Loney at first, Rivera at second, Kelly playing in the middle, and then Cabrera at short and Reyes at third. And they're going to all play in because with Inciarte's speed, you can't risk playing back for a double play. Swanson at third, and Inciarte takes a first pitch slider for a strike from Smoker.
Now remember, if they fall behind, they don't have to pitch to Inciarte. 304 hitter against lefties. 115 at bats, only 12 strikeouts. He puts the ball in play.
Remember, you have a pitcher, Whistler, running as the pinch runner at first. And it's knocked down by Rivera. No advance. So Rene Rivera getting down and blocking a potentially game-ending wild pitch.
I'll say that just barely stayed in front.
Smoker last night came into a first and third nobody out situation in the sixth. Got a strikeout and a double play to get the Mets through it. And trying to pull some similar magic tonight. Swanson at third, Whistler at first, one out. And Inciarte hits it in the air, not deep. In comes Cespedes, and Swanson's going to have to hold as Cespedes makes the catch for the second out. So a huge out for Smoker, and now there are two out in the inning. And a chance to get through it with Adonis Garcia coming up. And Ender Inciarte perfectly disgusted with himself.
Up and in fastball.
And now Kelly is going to go to the outfield with 2 outs, so he gets his outfielder's glove from the bench. A guy who can play just about anywhere, and they'll send him out to center field. So Kelly, who replaced Granderson, went into the 9-hole, came into the infield for the first batter, but now with 2 out, Mets will go to a conventional defense, and Kelly will play center.
Very good, Gare. There's a lot going on in this inning.
So now Smoker has to get through Adonis Garcia. Braves had the winning run at third and nobody out, but Goodell struck out Flowers. That was enormous. And then Smoker got the short fly ball from Inciarte for the second out. Garcia tonight is 0 for 3, walked, grounded out, struck out, and then lined out to right. And Smoker, the left-hander, will stay in to face him. And Garcia takes a slider for a strike.
Smoker very competitive on the mound, very into it, very intense.
Whoa. This is low and away, and Rivera had to wrestle that one 1-1. Smoker's a guy who hangs on every pitch even when he's not in the game. That's up the middle, and it's into center field, and the Braves win the ball game. Swanson comes in on the 2-out RBI hit by Adonis Garcia, and the Mets' 6-game winning streak has come to an end as the Braves win it in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the 10th, 4-3.
Well, one heck of a ball game. This Brave team is in last place. They've got a lot of fight. They came back on the Mets. Just one heck of a game, a tough loss for the Metsies. But still a lot of baseball left.
So Adonis Garcia gets the base hit against the left-hander and gives the Braves a 10-inning victory to even up the series at a game apiece.
Fastball up and out over the plate. This was a great ball game right here. Tough loss for the Mets.
Swanson, who got to third base with nobody out, finally comes home with 2 out. And the Braves, who rallied twice in this game to tie, win it in the bottom of the 10th. So the Braves win in walk-off fashion. The game summary is brought to you by Dodge. Visit Dodge.com today. With the loss, the Mets fall out of the second wild card spot, a half game behind the Cardinals, who won tonight, as the Braves, on home runs by Markakis and Kemp, twice rallied a tie and then win it in the bottom of the 10th inning to even up the series at a game apiece. And this was one of those games where you realize that there are certain teams at the bottom of the standings who are going to fight to tooth and nail.
This was not the Cincinnati Reds by any stretch of the imagination. This team has played 2 tough ball games against the Mets. They gave the Mets a game last night. They got a lot of fight. They could be playing the season out. They've made it tough on the Mets. This was really, really a hard-fought game.
So the Mets, who had everything going their way, lose for only the 5th time in their last 20 games, and they fall back behind the Cardinals in the standings, lose a little bit of momentum tonight.
Well, I don't think they lose momentum. They fought hard. Both teams came back. Seesaw kind of game. It's a tough loss. The Mets got to feel good about themselves in that clubhouse, that they fought hard. They'll regroup, come out tomorrow, and keep that ball rolling.
Rubber game of the series tomorrow, the last game the Mets will ever play at Turner Field. But this one falls the Braves' way tonight as they win it in 10, 4-3. Final game of the series tomorrow. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Mets. Coverage on SNY begins tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Our next Picks telecast will be next Saturday from Citi Field, when the Mets play the Twins. Coverage begins next Saturday at 6:30. Coming up on Picks 11, it's the Picks 11 News with Corey Chambers, and on SNY, it's W.B. Mason.